Good day, everyone. My name is Buharilo Muhammad, and I'm going to be the moderator of today's webinar titled Beyond Borders Overcoming Challenges, Seizing Opportunities, and Thriving in Diaspora. So, the reason why, or the main reason of this webinar is mostly we know moving abroad is. It used to come with its challenges, whether you are moving for education or you are moving to establish your career or you are moving to get a better life in diaspora. It comes with both challenges as well as opportunities. So many Nigerians, when trying to move outside, they face a lot of challenges such as academic, uh, cultural differences, or trying to navigate and find job opportunities. So that's why we have four amazing scholars who have walked the same path and faced these challenges and came out successful. So they will share their real life experiences and offer us a practical guide to see how we can navigate this through these challenges. So whether you are a student now trying to apply for scholarship opportunities abroad, or you are already a student studying in any of the countries and you are facing some of these challenges, or you are about to finish your study and you don't know what to do next or how to navigate the next path for you. So I think this webinar is really for you. Is going to highlight us or to guide us how to navigate through these challenges. So uh, I welcome our scholars and permit me to introduce them before we dive into the webinar. Our first speaker is Dr. Muhammad Chutiami, he's not a guest. I'm sure some of you or most of you are already familiar with Dr. Chutiami. But for the sake of those who join us today for the first time, Dr. Chutiami is a lecturer at the University of Technology, Sydney, Australia, School of Nursing and Midwifery, Sydney, Australia. He is also adjunct PhD supervisor at Macquarie University, Sydney, Australia. He did his PhD at Macquarie University in Public Health and Masters at University of Bedfordshire, United Kingdom, and Bachelor in Nursing at University of Maiduguri, Nigeria. He is a registered nurse in Nigeria and Australia with a background in community and population health and over a decade of diverse clinical, academic, and field experience. Glad to have you here, Dr. Chutami. Can you say hi? Then I will move to the.
Thank you, everyone. I hope we will have a great discussion today.
Thank you, Doctor. So our next speaker is Dr. Umar Muhammad Bello. This is the Dr. Umar. Also, he's not a new face here. This is his second time join us. Dr. Umar Bello, Muhammad Bello is a lecturer at the Department of Physiotherapy and Paramedicine, Glasgow Caledonian University, Glasgow, United Kingdom. He received his PhD from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, then held postdoctoral fellowship at the Center of Eye and Vision Research, Hong Kong. Prior to that, he he studied undergraduate degree and masters in physiotherapy at the University of Maiduguri, Nigeria, and Keele University in the United Kingdom, respectively. So, thank you, Dr. Umar Muhammad Bello, for joining us today. We are glad to have you here. So our next speaker is Dr. Saluhu. I'm not sure. Dr. Muhammad Chutami, is he here with us or not yet?
Yeah, maybe you just introduce him. I just dropped him a message that we started.
Okay. So our next speaker is Dr. Salu Sabiu Musa, who is a mathematical epidemiologist and computational biologist specializing in infectious disease modeling, epidemiological forecasting, and public health research. He's currently a senior research scientist at the University of Maryland Institute for Health Computing, working jointly with the Department of Mathematics at the University of Maryland, College Park, United States. Dr. Salu also is a lecturer at the Department of Mathematics in Woodall. he earned his PhD in mathematical epidemiology from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and also did a postdoctoral research at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. And the last but not the least is Dr. Muhammad Aliu Idris, who is joining us today for the first time. He's currently a postdoctoral researcher at Fuhang University of Science and Technology, Prospect, South Korea, working on drug discovery using DNA encoded library synthesis. He obtained his first degree in chemistry from Kano University of Science and Technology. Later moved to India for master's degree in organic chemistry through Kano State Government Scholarship. And now he's also working, or he worked with Federal University Dusai as a lecturer in the Department of Chemistry for 2 years before moving to South Korea, where he did his PhD through Global Korea Scholarship. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Aliu. We are glad to have you here. So I think without uh, wasting much of our time, we will directly go to the discussion. I will start with you, Dr. Muhammad Chutiami. So our first discussion will be, Doctor, is sometimes, for example, when we try to look for scholarship opportunities, I think there are some certain things that we need to or is it there are some certain things that we need to consider before we apply for the scholarship? For example, maybe someone may say, okay, I will try to go to a country where I can maybe practice my religion peacefully, or some may say, okay, I would like to go to a country where there are a lot of scholarship opportunities and also there are job opportunities after I finish my education. So, what are the things to consider, Dr. Mahmoud Chutami, when someone is preparing for applying for scholarship opportunities abroad?
Thank you, Dr. Bahari, and Assalamu alaikum once again. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Of course, obviously, this is for us to share our experiences, and hopefully, we can all learn from it. So, I will try to be as specific as possible. So, for me, when I thought of looking for a scholarship to go for my PhD, the first thing that came to my mind was I have to be in charge of what I am going to do. I'm the kind of person that I don't believe I need to wait for somebody to stand for me. Because if you look at things like international scholarship, we are not talking about like state scholarship or Nigerian scholarship. We're thinking about international scholarship. We're not competing with people from our state, not from our northern part of Nigeria, not from Nigeria as a whole, is the whole world. So I believe I'm the best person to get myself that scholarship. And as such, I try to put as much effort as possible. That is one. And then secondly, obviously, I have to think of my field and I have to think of, okay, what are my options now? Because obviously, from the word go, I knew if I get out of Nigeria, it's unlikely for me to go back. So I have to think of, okay, if I go to this place, what can I do afterward? Start to think of the what will happen after the study. So I think that is very important because obviously, every country or every part of the world has its benefits and challenges. So for me, that also came into my mind. However, despite this, I try to not to put all my eggs in one basket. That is, I think, the next thing that I consider. Okay, now I want to establish my life abroad. So, what are the options that I have? Then consider these options individually and then start my application as much as I can do. So, I think this is brief things that I considered when I was applying for a PhD scholarship. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for sharing that, and I think that's really wonderful. So let's move to Dr. Umar Muhammad Bello and see. Also, when you were trying to apply your first scholarship, when you were trying to leave Nigeria, did you consider some of these factors when you are applying?
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Buhari, and I'm really pleased to be here once again. And thank you all for people that join. I hope we have a good conversation as we go through the process. So this is a very important point, Buhari. Whenever somebody is moving out of country, like my own case, the time I left Nigeria for my MSc was the first time I left the country. So you can imagine how big the move is going to be. You know, taking the flight, everything is new. So I can say it's really a big shock. So it's quite important for somebody to sit down, as Chutiami mentioned, to have a list of what you need to actually think about and prepare for. Nicely, Chutiami talked about lots of very important things that you need to consider. Think about yourself. You are marketing yourself. The scholarship is coming because of you. So it's because of your CV. It's not about somebody going there to stand for you, like the Nigerian factor and things like that. So that needs to be clearly captured. But in addition to what Bibi has mentioned, I think another thing to think about is how do you plan to finance everything? Is your scholarship going to cover everything for you? Is it going to be fully funded? Can you be able to pay your school fees? Can you be able to have your own upkeep and be able to survive in the country that you're going to? Or is it going to be partly funded? And I think this is quite important. So you need to check that, do your own research, talk to people, and make sure that you know what you're going into in terms of finances. And I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of cases where people come in and then they have part funding, and at the end of the day, they couldn't meet up the finances, and it's becoming very challenging for people to actually survive in these countries. And think about it: if your support system is back in Nigeria and you come to the UK without good scholarship, and you're calling back to Nigeria for people to send naira for you to change to pounds, a pound today is like 1,900 naira, and if somebody send you 10,000, what can that do to you? 100,000. So we need to think about all these things and make sure that we are financially okay before coming in. Although there are jobs that you can do here, which is another part of the conversation, but make sure that you do your homework and know things about finances. In terms of applying for scholarship, to be more specific, you need to actually do your research to know the type of funding that are there in the country that you are going to. We've talked about this. The other kind of discussion that we had is to think about the type of scholarships that are out there, and then try to apply the one that will suit your own purpose. There are other things around thinking about your religion, culture shock and things like that, which I'm sure we are going to talk about them subsequently. But there are a lot of things that you need to actually think about when even planning to leave the country. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar Mohammed Bello, for bringing a new perspective to it. So, Dr. Salu Musa.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you
Sorry
for
for
joining
being
us,
a little bit
Doctor.
late.
Yeah, so I hope you have had our conversation and you have heard what Dr. Muhammad Chutiani and Dr. Umar Muhammad Bello have said. Do you have anything to add to this topic, like things to consider when trying to apply for scholarships?
Yeah, sorry once again for joining a bit late because of the time difference. It's a bit early now here. So yeah, I believe they have said all most of what I'm supposed to say, but one thing I would like to add is, for example, first of all, like Umar mentioned, first of all, you have to make sure that you do your research well, especially, for example, even if you have a dream country, so you have to make sure that, first of all, always your target is the opportunity. I used to tell my students, like, always go look for the opportunity first. And even if you have a dream country, for example, some people might think that, oh, my dream country is UK, my dream country is Saudi Arabia, US, or whatever. So first of all, try to find the opportunity first. So you may find yourself maybe in Asian countries, maybe Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, whatever. So after that, then you can try to navigate and move to your dream country. So looking for that opportunity is the priority in the beginning. So which is very important, and you have to do a rigorous research, try to find people who are living there in that country, ask them a lot of questions, because some things you might not really find online, but consulting people who have the experience, who are living there, so can give you a lot of insight, and that could help you a lot, and prevent you from any other issues that might come up along the way. So that is really very important. So other issues, I believe we will discuss in the subsequent discussion.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's for
thank
sure.
you. So
Thank
research,
you
that
very much.
this is very important. Yeah, thank you.
That's true. Thank you very much, Dr. Saluhu. But let's move to Dr. Muhammad. Uh, but what I would like to ask you, Dr. Muhammad, is mostly, for example, when we think of applying scholarship, like what Dr. Salu have mentioned, we used to think of United States, or we used to think of United Kingdom. But for you, you have come to Korea almost seven years ago. I'm sure by that time there's no much like awareness about scholarships in especially Asian countries. So what was the deciding factors that you decided to come to Asia instead of Europe or United States? No, your mic is mute, Dr. Muhammad. You have to unmute your mic.
All right, all right.
Mm.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Barry. So the thing is, actually, I can say I'm such a person who try to work hard and look for opportunities. So, for example, after my master studies from India, so I begin to think about, so where will I go next? So immediately I got employment with Federal University Dusay. I begin to think, I'm not staying here. I have to move forward. I have to look, let's say, for PhD. So it was then that I begin to search about opportunities online. You're right that I don't have a community where we can discuss with like-minded people like this. So I did most of the research on my own. So I try to narrow my search based on countries. So each country, I know the requirement. For example, when you think about US, for you to get there, maybe there are some prerequisite that you need to have. For example, let's say GRE, like the IELTS, the English proficiency exams, and other things. So it was then that I began to equip myself with things like that. So I could remember I and a friend of mine there, Elias, I think you know him. I always tell him, let's go for IELTS. So I tried to push him. We registered for IELTS. We got it. And then I think what next? So if I want to move to US, maybe I definitely need a graduate record exam, the GRE. So actually, I try to get almost all the requirements. Then I begin to apply to as many places as possible. I actually got scholarship from other countries. Most of them, I got the response after I came to Korea. That's the truth of it. So even Saudi Arabia, like in France, I got some visa documents after I came to Korea. So it's not I just want to come to Korea. I at that time I just want to leave Nigeria. I'm sorry to say. I just want to go. I just need an opportunity, which I think is somewhat uh, not a wise idea. If I am to change, for example, if I am to go back in time and change some things, I might have look for other things instead of coming here. But anyway, I'm doing very okay here, so all is well. So it's actually not like I definitely wants to come to Korea or something like that. But apart from that, I actually, after getting this scholarship here in Korea, I look for the bigger picture. What do I want to do? What will I do in future? The opportunities, everything. I considered that even before coming here. So it is important not to just look for a scholarship and just move abroad. You might get stuck at some point. You might finish your studies and just get stuck. So where will I go? What do I do? Why do I even choose this course? You understand? So it's not actually just going out of Nigeria. I think people need to consider so many factors. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Mm.
This is very important. Actually, I can really resonate with what you said, because recently I've received an email from a student want to apply for a GKS scholarship, but in the email he is trying to ask like how if I come to Korea, can I like practice my religion peacefully? And is there any Nigerian that I can communicate with? How about funding? So I stopped a little actually while I was reading, because I remember when I was trying to apply for scholarship, not a second this kind of thought even come to my mind. I just want to leave the country. So I will just like any opportunity that present itself to me, I will just grab it. So then I remember, okay, yeah, I think maybe sometimes actually it's really important to focus or to observe this kind of certain things so that you can make a really informed decision. But sometimes actually we used to be in a very desperate situation that we just want to really leave the country. I think that's what used to around that. So thank you very much, doctors, for sharing this beautiful and amazing insight about what are the factors that we need to consider while trying to apply for scholarship. So let's go to our second topic is about cultural shock and adjustment in the country of residence. So maybe I will go backward. I will start with you, Dr. Muhammad Aliu. Uh, then what was the cultural shock that you faced in Korea, and what kind of criteria that you set in place for adjustment? Because I know you were before I came here. I remember like I get in touch with you where, when I get the scholarship. Then I had the news that within 6 months you already passed the Korean language with
No,
uh,
no, no.
with 5 level. I was so surprised. So what are the cultural shock and then adjustment you made in Korea that
I think Chip,
you
you
think
haven't
is
got
really
five
helpful?
in 6 months. So the thing, actually, thank you. But so the thing is, uh, what can I say? It's like you need to have your own. We all have our dream, right? We know what we want to achieve. Like when we do things, we need to set goals. And what I normally do is like I used to have a stimuli, something that I always look at. Why do I want to do this? For example, you talk about the Korean proficiency exam. There's a reason behind that one also. So actually, when I first came to Korea, the biggest issue that I have had here is just related to the food, actually. But for the culture and other things, I didn't get much problem here. And after I joined, so I look at the environment. I think, what do I need to do? So I realized most of the people here don't speak English, to be honest. So I realized that for me to adapt to this environment, to live really well, so I need to learn that language. And apart from that, uh, it was part of the KGSP requirement that we have to stay in dormitory for that complete year, the language year, before we move out. Uh, but unfortunately, I want to bring my family here. So I asked them, how can I move out of the dormitory? So they told me, if you want to do this, you have to pass the Korean examination in 6 months, then we will let you out. You understand? So then I think, okay, this is my stimuli. Let me work for it. Then I work hard. Then I got the exam. I passed the exam. Then I move out of the dormitory. So this is how I think about it. And there was also like a additional tip. They used to give additional it's like $100. If you got topic 5, then they will be giving you $100 monthly until you finish your studies. So I think, oh, if I can get this, I will have like an extra income that I can augment my scholarship with, so I can do some other things. So the thing is, the culture shock wasn't that big in my personal experience because I've been to India, so I was in like another country before, so I didn't find it that difficult. But for someone who is like going out of country for the first time, you can have so much information online these days. Like you can have YouTube videos, you can see like the videos about the city that you are going, even the town, about the university you're going. you can find so much information about everything regarding that country. So I think that's not a big issue in my opinion.
Yeah, I see that. So the key point here is you must have a motivation in order to adjust. In
You
your
have,
case, it's the
yes,
is the family that you want to bring. That was
the
the
family and
motivating
that
factor.
$100.
That's true, which is highly understandable and is very is reasonable. So thank you very much, Doctor, for sharing that. So we'll move to Dr. Salu Musa. So, Dr. Salu, you have experience, let's say, in two countries, both in Asian countries as well as the United States. So, I'm sure like there is a big difference both in culture and other certain things of life that you encounter in these both countries. Maybe you can share some of the cultural shock you have experienced both in Hong Kong and the United States.
Well, I would recommend adjusting the title to say maybe cultural and weather shock and adjustment. That is
Okay.
very important. Yeah, this draws my attention because I've actually lived in four different continents. To say I live in Ukraine, which is in Eastern Europe, in Cyprus, in the Central Europe, also in Asia, Hong Kong, and also in the North America. So, but one thing I would like to recall, what I would like to mention, like the very first time I left my country to Ukraine. Uh, what shocked me the most is the weather. Actually, I left Nigeria when the temperature was around 32 degrees Celsius, and then I went to Ukraine, and when we landed, immediately the temperature was around almost negative 20 degrees Celsius. So imagine the gap, the difference. So it is a huge challenge. But one thing I know about most Africans, to say, or Nigerians, we have very good adaptation. Our adaptation is remarkable, and we have a lot of resilience. This has a backing in one research recently I read about African adaptation uh, published in 2021. So initially, you may encounter a lot of differences in language, social customs, and even food. You have to be very careful, extra careful, because sometimes you may end up eating fox or even dog, meat. So this is something that is really very important for you to consider. So that is why what I always advise people like who are moving abroad, like to consider is try to find or where you live. For example, the setting in places like in Asia, like Hong Kong, for example, is completely different from the settings like in the United States. For example, in Hong Kong, if somebody is moving to Hong Kong, maybe he get an opportunity to move to Hong Kong. I won't mind telling him like to go and live anywhere. You can just find accommodation everywhere and live. That's fine. But if you are going to the United States, it's completely different. Uh, the two major options I will always recommend is, first of all, try to look for Muslim community. There is always a Muslim community, and so try to find your accommodation near the Muslim community, so that in that way you feel at home. So, and you have to be even more extra careful if you have children. So because because of the diversity and a lot of things, for example, in the United States, it's completely different like in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is very standard, it's very simple, it's just like unique, you do what you want, but in the US it's different because of the diversity. So uh, your children, for example, you must try to find like a madrasa Islamic school, of which they must be going after going to the Western schools. That is very important. In fact, it's necessary for us because a lot of things might happen along the way if they are not attending those Islamic schools. So you may at some point you may end up losing your son. So you may be learning a lot of things which are different from your culture, a lot of things which are different from your religion. But by the time he go to the Western school and then he come back, go to the madrasa, so even if they teach him something different from what you want, different from your culture, different from your religion, in the madrasa, they will try to put him back on the way. So at home also you are trying. So all those things are very important to consider when you are moving to places like with a lot of complication in terms of diversity, like in the US. So, but the most important thing is try to find a very nice community. Like you always find a Muslim community. So even if it is far away from your office or the school, that is much better and safer. So that is what I would always recommend. So, but in places like Hong Kong, it's very straightforward. The only things I know like is of high challenging in Hong Kong is like, for example, the food and if you are not careful, you may be eating a lot of pork. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I see it's really a real struggles. You have to balance a lot of things at the same time. Like you have to
Exactly.
look at, for example, if you have the family, you have to see how they can adjust and how you can adjust at the same time, religiously, culturally. It's really it's a great work. But
Absolutely.
thank you
And
for
also,
sharing that.
one thing to add, for example, if you are going to maybe US or UK or places like in Europe, you have to make sure that you learn how to drive if you don't know how to drive. Like that is very important and necessary. But
I
if you
see.
are going to Hong Kong or some other Asian country, you don't need that because their transportation system is very
It's
efficient.
good.
You
Yeah.
don't need a car basically. So, but if
Mm,
you are going for Europe or US, whatever, make sure you learn how to drive because when you come here, it will be a bit more complicated.
mm,
Yeah.
I see. Thank you very much, Doctor. And Dr. Umar Muhammad, also maybe I would like you to share some of the culture and even the way that Dr. Salu added also.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Buhari. We share a lot of things in common with Dr. Saliu. So being in Hong Kong, sharing the same room, not
Oh
just living
wow.
in the same area during our PhD. And then now he's in the US and I'm in the UK, so similar kind of cultural backing and stuff like that. So I don't know if you have much time. I'll talk a bit about kids and give a lot of my example in terms of how to navigate some of these things when you come abroad, and then talk about language and then also living in diverse culture, if that's okay. So
Yes,
let me start
okay.
with the first one, which is language. And I'm going back memory lane when I started my MSc. I think that scenario will resonate with more people because for my job and PhD, I've been in the UK for my MSc before going there. So it's much more better in terms of the culture shock. But when I left Nigeria and moved to England for my MSc, that was the first time I kind of left the country. I'm used to watching movies and stuff like that, but I can tell you, Buhari, when I went for my induction the first day, I couldn't understand more than 50% of what they were saying
Wow.
because it was really quick. I couldn't even grasp anything. When I went back to the room, I was like, I think I called Chutami if I can remember, and I was like, can this MSc be done and things like that? Because it's just something else. People will be talking and you just be like, what are they saying? So it's a big shock when you move out, and sometimes you will panic. And lucky enough for me at Kiel University, they had this language kind of session, and it's compulsory for international students because they knew people tend to struggle to understand what they are saying. So we had to attend those classes no matter what you score in your IELTS or any exams that you take in English, you have to attend. And just to mention, some of the tips they gave us was like, whenever they are speaking, look at their lips. So don't just assume you hear what they are saying, but when you look at the movement of the lips, it helps you to grasp what they are saying. And that was the way we started. And we had lots of tips and techniques that we were taught to be able to understand what they are saying easily. So
So,
language can be a very big problem.
sorry, Doctor, not to cut you here. So to
Yeah.
be clear here, is the accent that is what is challenging or like the English?
So for England is the speed.
The
They
speed,
talk
okay.
really quick. Yeah, I think an average English person speak 4 syllables in a second.
Wow.
So that's really fast, and that's the data that we have so far. So they talk really fast, and to make it complicated, worry, Scottish accent is something else.
I know
They
that.
speak really fast. To give you an example that I think our audience will understand easily is for those that watch football. If you remember interviews of Sir Alex Ferguson, the former Manchester United manager, he talks really fast. And the reason why he does that with a difficult accent is because he's Scottish. So even English people sometimes find it difficult to understand the Scottish accent. So that is something to always be aware of. But when you go to the academic environment to paint a better picture, we have lots of these language centers that are there for international students. So the advice I would give people is when you come in, don't run away from these classes. Some students will feel I scored 8 in my IELTS, so I don't need to attend the classes. But it's quite important because you need to understand what your tutors are saying, what your lecturers are saying for you to be able to kind of do better in the courses that you'll be taking. So in terms of language, it's a big shock, but then there are ways to solve this. But the more you stay longer and the way you talk to people, the more you attend classes, it becomes easier. So I'm not trying to make people to be scared or things like that. But when you come in, the culture shock in terms of language is really big. So that is one in terms of language, but then it's something that can be ameliorated actually. If you talk to people, attend these classes, it goes down with time. The second thing is about kind of going into a culture that is totally different from your own. I can give example of myself, still talking about the MSc. When I went to Kiel for my MSc, it was funny, Dr. Bore, I was the only African in the class. So not the only like Nigerian, but the only African. So the other classmates I had were people from, UK, people from Greece, people from India, people from China, different countries there. But I was the only Black and the only African. So, I talk about the language and think about then you being the only Black, and it was just like, what am I doing here? Like, what did I
It,
put myself into?
yeah, it was really
It
challenging.
was yeah. The induction session was really frustrating for me. I was like, okay, am I even supposed to be here? Like, but they were welcoming, the tutors tried to calm you down, tried to make sure that you settle well when you start. So the tip I would like to give us in terms of settling in kind of multinational settings when you come in is to try to be a very good observer and try to be a very good listener. So try to understand the culture and the dynamics of the entire kind of class that you're staying in. One thing that people tend to do is they come in with their own preconceived idea of the way things are done from Nigeria, from their own country, and they will want to kind of expect that this is what will be done in that setting when they come in. But that's not the way things are done. When you go in, you'll see people doing different things, people behaving in a different way, people having different attitudes towards different things. You need to, if you can, try to study what they do and try to understand why they do what they do. And I think that is very important. Don't just jump into conclusion that your way is the best way. Understand them. Try to be positive in terms of what they do. You don't have to change your way of doing things. No, you stick to your own ideals, but then you need to be able to understand, and that will make you to blend and kind of dampen down this culture shock that you will likely be seeing when you go there. In terms of kids, I have 3 kids here in the UK. My eldest daughter is almost 12 now. So Sally, you talk about so many important things in terms of driving. It's very important, especially when you come into the UK, because juggling between work, Western education, and then now madrasa for your kids can be really complicated if you don't drive, because they stay up to 3 in school and then they start madrasa usually at 5 to 7. So getting them from school, taking the bus, going home, taking them to madrasa can be really difficult if the school is not quite close. So Sally mentioned about the environment, which is quite important. You need to get a community which is Islamic if you are a Muslim, and then you need to be able to make sure that the madrasa is quite close if you can. It can be difficult at times. If you happen to get a house that is quite far, then make sure that you quickly get something to be able to convey your kids to school, and that actually helps a lot. Just something to touch on kids. when we came in there, because I wasn't driving at the early stage, we used a lot of WhatsApp video to do madrasa for my kids. So what we did was there was a Malam that was teaching them already back in Nigeria in their own school, and I talked to him and I started paying him some amount, and he teaches them on WhatsApp video call. So it's very powerful. It's quite difficult at the early stage because kids can be really funny. They wouldn't want to sit and they play. But if you are there and then you help the malam and you try to make sure that there is a lot of coordination, I think it helps a lot. My daughter actually was able to memorize lots part of the Quran, alhamdulillah, through that channel, and it's quite powerful to actually use before you are able to settle quickly and get them into the madrasa. That is quite important. And when we come here, I think something that is quite important in terms of culture shock for the kids is also to know how to talk to your kids. I have seen a lot of cases here where people talk to their kids in a way that makes them to hate everything that is done in the society without knowing. And it's quite important. The way you talk to them matters. You are in a new society, they have their own ways of doing things. So whenever they come back home with new things from school and they're telling you, so pay attention and listen to them. Because kids wants to convey a message to you as quickly as possible if you're really open to them. And if they come back with something like, I saw somebody eating something that is not halal, somebody eating something in school that is not halal. They're not supposed to eat that. You told me that we need to eat halal. You need to calm them down and be like, okay, halal is for us that are Muslim. We have to eat something that is halal because it's not an option. But then they have the right to eat something that is non-halal. Just sending that message to the kid will get them to start integrating into the society quickly. But if you be like, no, they shouldn't be doing that, haram, if you keep doing that, they will grow with the hatred of the system, and that will make them to become something else. So that is quite important. I think one of the major advice I will give parents when you come in with your kids is to now create time to talk to them. If they're telling you something, sit down and listen to them, because that way you can be able to correct a lot of things without even knowing. So when they go to school, come back home, make sure you create time. I know it's busy, people go out to look for money, do extra jobs, but hey, calm down a little bit when you have kids. Because if you really want to work and instill that discipline in them, when they go to the madrasa, they learn a lot of things. You want to make sure you find a way to refine that and kind of polish the information that they are getting so that it actually goes in, sink in, and they have better understanding of what is going on. So it can be really complex when you have kids juggling madrasa, information they have, trying to train them and make sure that you go with that kind of culture that we have, Islamic background and things like that. It's a lot of things to do, Dr. Buhari. So we need to actually understand a lot of things. Get a good community. If you can, walking distance to the madrasa, that saves a lot of problem for you. If it's far, make sure you get the madrasa. If you have not settled well, do WhatsApp. There's no any reason to say you stop your kids from going to madrasa or getting any touch with Islamic education. I don't think there's any reason now with the social media and everything. Get somebody from Nigeria if you don't have the time. Make sure that somebody is actually teaching them. For my kids, they do hadiths, they do Quran, they do so many topics online. He sent the copies, we print them out sometimes, give to the kids. They have their WhatsApp video online and they go through the formal madrasa as it can be. So there is no any excuse, Dr. Buhari, for me. If you want to really train your kids, you can't just stay back and be like, no, we stopped Islamia until next 3 years. That doesn't work. There are options, and you can use something like WhatsApp video to do this, honestly. Lots of things to say, Dr. Buhari, but in terms of mixture of shock, for my workplace, I happen to be, I think it's my case, I'm the only African teaching in the entire department, and I'm the only Muslim. So
Wow.
everyone is either English, Scottish, and then we have 2 Indians, my very good mentors in the department, and they're all citizens already. So I'm the only non-citizen African and then Muslim in the department. So it's a big mixture again, just similar to my MSc. And to be honest, talk to people, ask questions, don't observe people and understand what they do. And I'll just close by saying something quite important that one of my uncle told me when I was going for my MSc. He said something that has been resonating with me for a very long time. He said, you should never apologize to be a Muslim. When you are abroad, Never, ever apologize to be a Muslim. You are a Muslim. If you have to pray, pray. If you have to fast, fast. Let the environment you are working in or you are schooling in know that this is who you are. And that solves you a lot of problems. So it's quite important. If you need to practice your religion, don't be like, I'm in the US or I'm in the UK, I want to hide from being a Muslim. Don't do that, because what you are doing is you are doing disservice to yourself. Understand the religion, practice your religion as much as you can, and there is no any apology for that. If you have a lecture, once you're done with your lecture, go to your madrasa and pray. And things are very good now in UK, for instance. There is hardly any university that doesn't have a Jumu'at mosque. Jumu'at, like, not even comes to Salawat. We have 5 prayers. In my campus, I just need to walk for like 2 minutes from my office and I'm in the madrasa. And I pray. We have Jumu'at prayers, we have khutbahs, we have everything. So the system is really better. So there's no even reason why you should be hiding or not be practicing your religion. It doesn't work that way. There's no any apology. Be a Muslim if you're a Muslim. If you're a Christian, be a Christian and practice your religion. And let people understand that this is who you are. And I think that is quite important whenever you get to a new place to settle down for job, for school, or anything. Back to you, Gauri.
Oh, thank you very much, Doctor. You have really talked a lot about very important topics, and you have summarized them all, especially with regarding to the children, because I know sometimes, for example, as a researcher, it requires almost all your time, and then at the same time you have to create a time for your children so that you will guide them. It's really not an easy task, but I think it's something that is a mandatory as a parent. So you really need to do that, otherwise there is going to be some unfortunate event later. And with regards to the culture also, I think it's very important that you highlighted that yes, sometimes you really need to be clear about what you are. For example, here in South Korea, mostly in Asian countries, for example, they eat a lot of pork, and almost everything they put pork inside, and they have this kind of culture that eating together, for example, in a lab, maybe in a week or almost every day, you have to eat together with the lab mate and sometimes even with the professor. So if you are not clear about that, then you may run into a problem. Actually, you may, for example, you if you say, okay, I will not let them know, okay, then you will be eating pork, like you will eating non-halal food. But when you make them clear, they are very accommodating. So even when they are going to restaurant, they will ask you what you can eat and what you cannot eat, so that they can, for example, book a prepared place for you. So it's very good that you have to be clear with your faith or with your culture, so that let the people understand, let them accommodate you. At the same time also, you have to accommodate their culture, because their culture is very different from ours, so you really need to understand where they're coming from. At the same time also, they need to understand where you are coming from. Thank you very much, Dr. Umar Muhammad Bello, for pointing out that. So lastly, we'll go to Dr. Muhammad Chutiami also. Maybe you'll highlight some of the culture in Australia, especially with the weather. I always don't understand the Australian weather. I don't know. You are all totally different from the rest of the world.
Thank you so much, Buhari. I will try to make it quick because obviously I think they have done justice to this topic. All of them, they have said really, really important things. And I think one key difference that I want to highlight is, unlike all of them who establish themselves with their family, I established myself alone, which I believe many of you with us today, you are likely to do the same. So the point that I want to bring is, loneliness is such a big factor when you live in these kind of countries. You see, at least if you have your family, you can stay day and night if you don't have work to talk to your family. But imagine going to a place, like in my case, when I was coming to Australia, I didn't have any contact. I didn't know anybody. In fact, the only time that I can remember prior to coming to Australia was during Sydney 2000 when we were young and watching these Olympic Games, and that's when I even had the name Sydney. So, and when I did my master's in UK, it's a class. We had a lot of people, and when I started my PhD in South Korea, again we were doing language with Dr. Muhammad, even though we didn't meet till now. So there is that social connection. So the point that I want to bring is when I came to Australia, it was different. The PhD in Australia, I think, is similar to UK. You don't attend classes. We don't have lab in my case. You are alone. No family, no friends. I don't know anybody, which means I have to establish all of this connection. And believe me, if you don't establish some sort of connection, no matter how much you hate Nigeria, you will hate this place because you're going to feel very lonely and you will feel like nothing is making sense to you. So when I first came to Australia, the first thing that I did was as soon as I reached my house, I used the internet. It's really, really important. I just put in the internet, mosque near me. That was the first thing. I didn't even buy food. I didn't buy anything. I just put mosque near me. And it's very easy. It just showed me, oh yeah, this is the direction, the closest mosque. It took me about 10 to 15 minutes. I walked there. I prayed Maghrib there and then say hello to people. That is the thing. Just talk to people, say hello to them, and then yeah, one or two people started talking to me. Yeah, where are you from? This and that was the first point of my connection. So whether you are a Muslim or you are a Christian, if you go to a place that you don't know anybody, I will highly recommend this. You can put a church near me. If you are a Christian, you can easily find a lot of them. And don't forget that you're not the only person that would like to connect with people in such areas. So use that opportunity. And then secondly, even when it comes to the university itself, there are a lot of ways to make connection when I realize we don't do classes. So I just check what are the communities available at the university. So we have something we call higher degree research mentors, which is a social network that you can go meet with people and then do things together. So just to take care of that loneliness, which is the biggest cultural shock for me. And just to conclude, just to add to what Buhari said with regard to the weather, of course, unlike the other people, I visited Umar Bello just like 2 months ago. The weather there is just unbelievable. So in Australia, the good thing is our weather is a tropical weather, very similar to that of Nigeria, much more cooler than Nigeria during the winter. But outside winter, you can dress as you wish and just go out without any problem. So the only problem with Australia is we are just too far away from everywhere. Obviously, we are now 10 hours ahead of Nigeria, and I think ahead of many other countries in the world. So, whenever you come to this place, talking to your family back home and all that, you have to adjust to the time before you get used to it. But then, the weather wise is very okay. You can easily adapt to it as long as you maintain your social connection. Thank you, Buhari.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmoud Chuchami. You have really bring up a very unique point, which is loneliness, and I think this it has connection with the mental health. Mostly, actually, we don't pay attention to our mental health while in Nigeria. I don't know whether it is me. Actually, I don't even know what is that before I left Nigeria. But when you are outside, like there are a lot of things and episodes that you will be seeing, then like you would really know that that's very important, and we really need to pay attention and to that, and that it has connection with the loneliness. For example, you move to a new country, you don't know anyone there, you are alone, and unfortunately, if it happens that in the lab or in the school that you are working is not like helping, then you will find yourself in a very very difficult situation. You may have a mental breakdown. We have a lot of issues actually, or examples like that. It happens in so many countries. Some of the people, even like they have, let's say, they have lose their mind, so they have to go to psychiatry or something like that. So that is really very important, and the best way to appoint that, to avoid that is just the way Dr. Mohammed Shutami and all other scholars have pointed out. Try to find a community as soon as possible. As soon as you reside in a new environment, try to find a community that will guide you and will help you to socialize. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed Shutami. So now let's move to our next topic, and I will start with you, Dr. Chutiami. So now let's say we have moved abroad, we have experienced new culture. So most of the things that, or most of the the things that make us go outside is maybe through study. That's to pursue a scholarship and do our either undergraduate and postgraduate study, or sometimes even establish a career there. But this comes with challenges, especially academic challenges. It comes, for example, with the research, with the relationship with the supervisor, or relationship with the school, or something like that. So if, for example, students are having that issues, difficulties in academic challenges in their study, or even before they have getting the scholarship, how can they try to avoid some of the common academic challenges in abroad? Dr. Mahmoud Chutami, I'd like to start with you.
Thank you, Dr. Buhari. Yeah, I think it's very important question because no matter how good a place is, there has to be challenges. We have to agree with this and believe it is going to happen to us in one way or the other. So obviously, just to build on my previous point, when I started my PhD, I know this is a different environment, and I knew the way we were taught how to do research in Nigeria is relatively different. We are more into theoretical aspect of it than the practical aspect of it. But then when I came to Australia, even starting from my master's in the UK, I realized that the application of your knowledge is very important. So it's not about, oh, I know there is quantitative, qualitative research, whatever. Nobody cares about that. How can you implement it? How do I make it happen and demonstrate that I can do it? So I remember when I first came in, because obviously I always look for opportunities to support myself in addition to the scholarship. So I talked to my supervisor. I said, I would love to do some academic job while doing my PhD. Then she said, well, now it is too early. You need to establish your research and then see how we go. So what I understood from my supervisor was that she wanted to see how am I able to have control over my PhD before I can do anything? Because PhD in Australia, for example, is a study that you do it, they want you to take the lead over 80 to 90% of what is happening. Supervisor, to me, they just did like 10% because all they are doing is guiding you. You are expected to know what you need to do. For them, it's just for them to guide you. So you need to be able to earn that trust from your supervisors that you can do it. So, of course, many of us are not on the same level when it comes to knowledge of research because we can through education. So if you think you have deficiency, there are a lot of platforms that you can engage with to increase your knowledge. Even though we don't do classes for PhD, there are a lot of online courses that you can enroll yourself to increase your knowledge. That is one thing. Secondly, there are people that come to that same university that did the same course as you, maybe 1 or 2 years ahead of you. So use them. They have undergone all of these challenges, all of these grudges. So make sure you tap from their experience, establish that connection, and learn from them. Avoid what mistakes they have made. I want to give one example before I finish. When I started my PhD, the office that I was given, there was a student from Norway. The student has been in Australia for 2 years, and then all of a sudden, I heard the student is going back to Norway because she cannot complete the PhD. And I was scared because she's from my supervisor, and for some reason, they couldn't go well with the supervisor. What I came to learn afterward is the failure for the student to listen to the supervisor. Of course, they will let you do what you want to do, but you have to prove to them that what you are doing is right. So due to miscommunication or misunderstanding between my supervisor and that student, the student had to go back after 2 years. But then my case, it was different. I was able to finish my PhD in less than 2 years, which means if you do the right thing, you listen to their advices, nothing can stop you from thriving very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That's very important. Yeah, you really need to listen to your to your supervisor, because the key to your graduation is in his hands. So you really need to be in good terms with them. Thank you very much, Doctor. So, Dr. Umar Mohammed Bello, I'm sure you have something to add to this also.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Buhari. Bibi touched on something that is very, very important. That cordial relationship is quite important, especially for PhD scholars. I would like to talk on also going back to the MSc, as I keep saying, I think it's going to resonate more with people that are moving out for the first time. I think something that was a bit challenging for me when I came to start my MSc is the academic writing, the essay writing, because it's totally different in terms of the way we are being assessed in Nigeria. We tend to go through the route of going into the class, you study something and you're given questions, you write, or you do MCQs, for instance. But when I came in for my master's, it was a bit different. I given a topic and then you do academic writing, which was a big challenge for me, referencing, avoiding plagiarism and making sure that you cite whoever you are actually copying from. You need to also paraphrase things. So it was really a big shift in terms of my own academic journey doing my BSc from Nigeria. So I think it's something that we need to also be aware of. The assessment pattern can be different if you're moving from one country to another, especially for MSc. And to also talk about the good side is usually the universities are aware of all these things and they set aside a unit that try to teach students how to do this writing. So it's quite important whenever you are in to engage with these units. When you have your first draft, second draft, take it to them, sit down with them, discuss and see if you're on the right path or not. I think for UK, I'm sure most of all the universities will have all these units. Apart from that, because we are used to this class-based assessments, and these are now off-class essay writing that we mostly do in MSc, I think when you are given the first 2-3 assessments, you need to make sure you understand the assessment brief. They usually give out something that is called assessment brief, and it tells you everything that you need to do in that assessment. If you don't understand it, chase the lecturer and make sure you clearly understand what they expect from you. I can give you an example. I wouldn't call them. When I started my MSc, I told you I was the only African, so we had to set a group in the class and we started reading together. So when we came in the first time, everybody was confused. We had our induction, but slowly we realized that we really need to work together to be able to understand, form reading groups. I can remember I had a group with somebody from Thailand, a very good friend of mine, somebody from Palestine, and 2 guys from Greece. We had to form a group, and some people from China, very close group. We just literally migrated to the library and just sit there. Because it was really tough in terms of the writing. And the good part of it is all these tips were given to me by somebody. Bibi mentioned this tutorial just now, that you need to speak to people that graduated before you. I was lucky, a Nigerian, her name is NK, very good friend of mine, actually graduated a year before me in the same program. So when I was coming to the program, I worked with a lady called, she's a consultant hematologist, and she did her master's also in the university. So I spoke to her and she connected me with NK. So NK, after graduation, she got a job in one of the hospitals across the university. And then, so we sat down, we talked about everything. How can I actually do this program? She gave me a lot of tips. And the first one was collaborate with people. Don't be alone, because it's a big difference in terms of the way the assessments are done. So if you put yourselves together, you study together, you are given the same questions, you will do better. And I took that advice positively. And that was what we did. I created the group. I called them together. We formed this group. And all of us actually were lucky to graduate at the same time. Our criteria was very strict. If you fail a module, just one, you will resit. And if you resit and you fail again, you are withdrawn from the program. And they will just give you your money for dissertation and you go back to your country.
Wow.
And the reason why they were doing that was because Kiel was the best physiotherapy university in the whole of UK at that time. So they had a very high kind of criteria in terms of their own assessment for MSc. So it was really tough. And that helped a lot, actually. So we had this group, we work together, we read. If you don't understand something, you have a student close to you to talk with and things like that. So it was really a very nice approach. So essay writing can be a bit daunting when you come here. So use the language centers in the university, use them appropriately, speak to your tutors to explain exactly what they want you to do in the essays, and then form groups. form reading groups, and be able to have support system as you go through the process. Speak to people that finish before you, if you can have that chance. The second thing is about PhD. I think for PhD scholars, we need to understand that PhD is not a test of your own knowledge. It goes beyond that. Some people think when they are going for PhD, I'm just going because I'm intelligent, I'm an A student, it's done. I think PhD goes beyond that. PhD is designed in a way that it's kind of reshape you, because you want to be a philosopher when you finish. So it's not just about being intelligent that you know the field. It teaches you a lot of things, and I think I will just mention some of them. I think for me, PhD, one thing that it added to me is patience. If you're not patient enough, when you get into PhD, it will teach you that process. Because sometimes you'll send a draft to your supervisor, it will take weeks, months before you get feedback, and you just have to be patient. It teaches you to be calm and be able to follow the process as much as you can. Especially, I'm sure Boari will resonate with me if you're in places like Korea and if you do your PhD in places like Hong Kong, for instance. So it teaches you to be dedicated. It teaches you to be perseverance in terms of the way you do things. So it's more of a lot of other bits that it teaches you. So there could be a lot of change in terms of your own mindset. I'm intelligent, I'm A student, and I'm going to hit this, and that will be it. But if you go in here for PhD, there are a lot of things that you learn, and it's actually a lot of challenges that people tends to have when they go in. So it's good to have that clear mindset when you're going in. And in terms of finances, there are lots of financial issues I think that students tend to have, and this is arising from balancing between their own classes and job. Especially here in the UK, we see a lot of that. People go into jobs and then they sometimes even forget the study. So it's really important to get a job that will really suit your own study. Your study is the priority. Get a job to support yourself, but make sure you have that good balance. I see a lot of these cases where students find it difficult to finish their program on time. They become frustrated at the end because they pay more attention to their job and things like that. So try to have a good balance. Your priority is your education, and then the secondary thing is your job to be able to survive, to get extra money if that's what you want to do. But strike that balance when you come in. When you're done, you get your post-study visa. You can be able to do your job 247 if you want to. But it's very important to settle down, do the job, do the academics, and then do the job as a secondary thing. So it's very important. Talk to people. I think talk to people, form connections. It's going to reduce all this problem. I think Bibi talk about that. I talk about NK. For my PhD, I had very good Chinese friends, two of them that helped me a lot. I wasn't conversant to MATLAB, and things like that. They taught me how to use MATLAB, not my supervisor because he's not even using MATLAB as well. So if you talk to people and then try to connect with people, it will lessen most of the problems that you're going to be having. So problems will be there, but then there are ways to actually try to go around them. And the key thing is to be open and I think talk to people. Yeah, back to you, Wari.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar. I think this is very wonderful advices, especially that you made mention that, yeah, you need to talk to people, especially people who are expert in your field, and at the same time be patient. That's very important, actually. Sometimes even if you are not patient, you will learn it the hard way, to be honest. So you really need to be patient in your academic studies. So, Dr. Salu, uh, maybe you have some things to highlight also. Maybe during your PhD, you may encounter some challenges and how you navigate through those challenges. You are mute, Dr. Salu.
Oh, sorry. So I believe the previous speakers have said a lot and have said more than enough. So I will just add like one or two things. First, one key area which is really very important for people moving abroad, especially for masters, PhD, is try to have a good connection. When I say connection, I mean try to find the right people in your area, try to collaborate with them, discuss with them, not necessarily to write research together, but try to be in contact with them, identify those people who are in your area and try to get some advice because they have more experience. What you want to go through, they have already went through and they have more experience, so they can tell you all the problems that you might possibly encounter and how you can possibly solve them in an easiest way. So that's really, really important. Uh, Connection is really important. I remember one of the things that helped me even get a scholarship in Hong Kong is ability to connect and collaborate with people. You know, like I was there when I returned from Cyprus and started my PhD immediately in Bayero University. But then at the same time, looking for opportunities. That was around maybe almost 10 years ago. So I was looking for an opportunities everywhere. So I met someone in Hong Kong. Initially, I contacted him and we discussed. He said, "Oh, nice. We can find time to discuss." We talk a little bit, and then later on, he sent me a couple of papers. So when he sent me his papers, that was my supervisor actually. So when he sent me one or two papers to read, and I read one of the authors, I also contacted one of the authors, co-authors of the papers, who is one Chinese professor. He has now moved to US. I contacted him. I said, "Oh, this my friend sent me this, and
maybe you can talk a little bit louder. They are saying the sound is not
so
that clear.
now is it clear now?"
Yes, I think maybe you can talk a little bit louder.
Okay.
Mm.
So uh, the papers he sent me, actually, I checked, I read the papers, and I checked one of the co-authors. I contacted him, one Chinese professor. So we started communicating at that time. So even before I moved to Hong Kong, we already wrote a paper, a manuscript.
Mm.
So that's really helped me a lot.
Mm.
So try to get in contact with people, not necessarily to do the research together, but they will give you hint. He helped me a lot in how to even write the proposal of which I use for my application for the PhD in Hong Kong. So this is very important actually. And one thing also I would like to add, I don't want to be repetitive of what they have already discussed. Like Umar mentioned, we share almost everything in common with Umar, so I don't want to be repetitive again. So one important thing I would like to add here is try to in your trying to maintain the balance, try to don't get away completely with other activities of life. For example, exercise is very important. This is one area that I believe Chuti Amin and Umar will tell us better, but it's very important because I like sport a lot. And in Hong Kong, for example, because the system is like completely different from the Western countries. So in Hong Kong, students spend like 12 hours in office, but in the Western countries or in the US, the people like 9 to 5, they will just leave. Everybody will leave. Even the student and everybody will just leave. So it's close for the day till tomorrow. But in Hong Kong or in some other Asian countries, it's different. So you have to stay like all some time, even beyond 12 hours. So imagine staying in office like for 10 hours in the chair is, like 12 hours is not healthy.
Mm.
And that will even, like even affect your progress, productivity, So our friend, I believe he is here also. Sometimes he doesn't want to go to exercise. We sometimes have to push him and took him to gym or something like that. So that is really very important, and try to navigate. Even in most of the campus, you find like a gym center. That is really very important. Don't ignore that part, because sometimes you may end up falling, sick. So when you are sick, nobody cares. That is why that's very important for you to know. So if you are sick, even your supervisor, he will just say, "Oh, sorry," but nobody cares. If the things turn worse, they will just ask you to go back to your country. So that is very important, actually. So I think that these are the only two things I will add in addition to what is have discussed. Sorry, I will have to run for Pajar. I will come back in 10 minutes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much, Dr. Salu. And that's very important, like topic actually you have touched on. That is, you really need to take care of your health, despite the no matter how tight your schedule or how tight your research is, you really need to take care of your health. And I think that Muhammad Ali will shed more light on that, because for example, in Korea is somehow a different system with the rest of the country. Mostly, I think, yeah, used to maybe work for almost 12 or 13, sometimes almost 24 hours. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Muhammad
Mhm.
Ali, maybe you will shed light some of the complications during academic studies, especially in
Uh,
Korea, and how someone can navigate through that.
yeah, I think the system is somewhat different here. You know about it, right?
Hmm.
So I've been to India for 2 years. I did my master's there, but unfortunately, there they pay more attention to the theory.
Theory, yeah, just
Yeah,
like home.
we had only 6 months for our project where you have to be in the lab all the time for only 6 months, which I think 6 months isn't that much time for you to be able to learn a lot of things. So when I first joined my laboratory here in South Korea, I had so much difficulty, but I was fortunate enough that there was one Chinese guy. He was a good friend of mine. I still remember there are some common things which I supposed to know actually, which I don't know. He said, Ali, this is common sense. You understand? I still remember that. He said, Ali, this is common sense. But the thing is, I was not exposed to that. I don't know about it. So at this point, I would like to advise like the young guys are like hoping to move abroad, most especially those who are like studying science and technology, to pay more attention to the application of what they are doing, most especially the research. For example, let's say a chemistry student or biology student, after graduating or maybe during your school days, pay more attention to the research, understand how it is done, and after graduating, you can look for some pharmaceutical companies, for example, just offer yourself. You can just do some voluntary work there, learn about some few research there. You understand? You don't have to think about the money they pay you. Just learn something. I was discussing with one guy there. He's a very good student. I like his style actually. He told me he's now working with one pharmaceutical company in Kano. I didn't know that company existed. He said he's just there learning how they do the analytical experiment and other things. It was really wonderful. He said they just pay him small money, but is improving his skills. You understand? And it will ultimately like improve his skills and his whole portfolio. You understand? So paying more attention to the research is important. When you move abroad, it isn't about like memorizing things about theory. It's not like that. You have to think technically. You have to come up with new ideas. So you have to begin to train yourself about like thinking, how do you improve some systems? How do you come up with new ideas? So things like this should be the priority. For example, when I joined my laboratory, I was telling you, I didn't know how to do like some basic things there. So that guy was teaching me, was helping me, and I realized that my professor likes to publish journals. So for me to survive in that laboratory is just to publish journal. So he gave me, there was a master's student who was like working on some things. He gave that project to me because the guy was not able to like get to in chemistry. In chemistry, we consider when we do synthesis, we want to optimize conditions and get to some certain percentage yield. So the guy was able to reach 40% yield. So professor asked me, okay, Ali, you are now PhD, you join here, do this one. It's like he's trying to test me. It took me almost 4 months. I couldn't improve that yield from 40% to even 50%. So later on, I begin to think, like my mindset, the way I think, I just want to do things. I just do things without really critically seeing how things should be done. So I just took, like I asked professor, please, I will not be going to lab. I just want to study this whole literature for 2 weeks. He said, okay. I look at the whole system, what I have been doing, what did that master student have been doing? Then I realized the problem. You imagine, in just 2 weeks, I reached 80% yield. And I published that paper. Next 3 months, I finished the paper, I published it. It was from that time, okay, now, professor, I think, okay, this guy can do it. And then my mindset, everything begins to change. I begin to think differently, like from theory now to real research oriented guy. So it is important always to think about, if I'm moving out, know what you want to do is important. I mentioned it before. It's not like I just want to move abroad. You might get stuck at some point because you just move abroad, okay, but you are just stuck there. What are you doing? Do you want to become a lecturer? Do you want to be in research field? Do you want to join company, industry, anything? You have to think about the bigger picture like that. So the bottom line is pay more attention to research. Try to be a research oriented guy. Don't just think about theory. So actually developed countries do things like this. It's not about memorizing things. You have to use your brain and work. So that's how science work actually in the advanced countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ali. That's a key point that you have highlighted here. I think this is the common Nigerian problem. Actually, that's all our problems when we are in Nigeria. We are always like theory oriented, but when we move out, then we realize that actually we really lack the practical skills, and that's what usually get us into trouble, or what we suffer with. We had to put an extra effort to learn the practical skills to be able to cope, because sometimes as a PhD student you can join a lab, but an undergraduate student is the one that will be teaching you the practical skill that you need to do your work. This is somehow an embarrassment, actually. If to see back home, we used to combine both theory and practical, I think that would not be an issue. So I think that may be due to the situation of the country, and due to the resources, and maybe lack of attention to education. But anyway, I think people need to really grasp the advice that Dr. Muhammad Ali will give, that you really need to focus more on research and the practical aspect. Even if you don't have the resources, try to look at it in the internet, for example. Try to be research oriented, uh, have a research oriented mindset, so that eventually when you get a scholarship, you get outside of the country, you can be able to adjust quickly and and understand the research. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ali, for highlighting that. I think that's very important. So now we will move to the next topic, which I think is very important. And the topic is sometimes, for example, we get the scholarship and we were able to successfully finish our studies, either master's, undergraduate, or PhD. But the real question, or the real trouble now, is what is next? As a Nigerian, you get the scholarship, you move to a new country, you finish, then what is next? Is it to go back home to get a job, or is it to try to find something, either get a job or other things in the country that you are residing, or in a new country? So that's a really difficulties, and I think this kind of transition, it really need a curated or an articulated plan. You need to plan for this kind of transition, because some people find it very challenging, while some people find it very fortunate. So I think that's what we want to discuss in this session. For people who are about to finish their studies, who they finish their studies abroad, what are the certain things that they can do to navigate through this transition, so that they can successfully land a job, or land a PhD position if they are masters, or land a postdoc position if they are a PhD? And how easy is it to move from one country to another country? And we are very fortunate today that the the scholars that we have today, they have all successfully undergone all this through process, and now they have established themselves in in the respective countries. So I think we are really in good hand to help us how to navigate this through challenges. So I think I will start with Dr. Chutiani.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Buhari. Yeah, this is very important area, and I think 80% of people who go to abroad for scholarship, I think the central goal is to settle down.
Yeah.
And just if you remember me in my first session, I did say that from the moment I was leaving Nigeria, I already set that goal. I have to find somewhere to settle down because I knew there was nothing for me if I go back to Nigeria. So, for that reason, I would like to take it a little back toward my master's because there is a lesson that I have learned. When I went to UK for my master's, I knew I wanted to stay, but I did not start processing anything to stay until after my master's, and my visa is only 4 years
Mm.
to expire. So within that 4 years, for my profession nursing, the first thing we have to do is to write English exam and get a score of 7 in each. And of course, I'm not very good with language like Dr. Muhammad. So I remember within this last 4 months in the UK, me and one of my friends, we started writing the English. We did not get coaching or anything to put good time to learn what we needed to learn to write the English. We just writing with not good guidance and we don't have much time. And we have to get the English for us to stand a chance to stay in the UK. So it comes to the point that me and him, we used to go for the English together. And then later we started hiding to each other. He will just tell me, yeah, I'm going for shopping. And he's going to write English. And despite all of these strategies, it did not work. And I remember the very day that we were leaving UK, we became very helpless. Like we knew we made a mistake. We started very late and we didn't get what we want. And that was almost late at the time.
Mm.
So coming back to Nigeria, that is when I decided to, okay, now that I missed that opportunity to stay in the UK, I have to find a PhD. But then if I get this PhD, anywhere I go, I have to go and start planning on staying in that country as soon as I get to the country. So to cut the story short, obviously, I started my PhD in South Korea because I got the scholarship first there. But then from there, when I was in Korea, I got the scholarship in Australia. So when I came to Australia, I knew my PhD was 3 years and I knew my visa was 4 years. So I have 4 years to go. But that did not deceive me to wait until when I am getting towards the end. I say, okay, what are the opportunities that I have as a registered nurse in Nigeria and Australia? Then I look at it, okay, there are different options academic practice in the hospital or do something else. I don't even have to do this job. So within 2 months, I started preparing for my English exam. Luckily, I wrote it within the first sitting. I got the required score and I started the process. And the process is very long. Before I became a registered nurse in Australia, it took 2 full years. So despite the fact that I knew I got the English and I knew I will get the chance to stay, that did not stop me from going for plan B while processing on plan A. So I decided, okay, what else can I do if let's say some problem happened, I did not get this nursing job or whatever. I decided to do a childcare, which I think we may think, oh, this is it's not something for a professional like myself, but I did not look at that. I just think of what can keep me in the country until I get my central or the best thing that I want to do in life. So I decided to go and take a 3 months training while doing my PhD just to get another job to secure myself. And that excludes other things that we do as PhD students, like tutoring, whatever. I made sure that I have plenty of options. So my big advice to everyone is please do not delay. The moment you landed yourself in, start thinking about the future. Don't wait if you are doing PhD. Don't wait until the final year or until if you are doing masters until the last couple of months. Try to start on time. Look at different options. Do not rely on one thing. Try to get one or two things. Put them in place as soon as possible, and then see how you go. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chitam. I think this is very important advice, and the story that you have given, how you transitioned from your masters, that you couldn't start preparing earlier, and that's why you couldn't be able to get something, so you had to go back to Nigeria. So the key point here is you really need to start preparing early. You need to start preparing as soon as possible. If you are PhD, for example, you have 3 years, so at least start preparing 2 years in advance. Try to connect with people, like email people, search for other opportunities so that you try to see what is next for you. And don't get us wrong, we are not trying to advocate for, okay, everyone should leave Nigeria and stay in the country. We are not trying to advocate that, but we are just being realistic. Actually, we know what is there for us back home. So sometimes, like we said in our previous session, you would be able to even help the country while you are outside the country, because you have to be comfortable for you to be able to help the country. So you need to help yourself first. So when you go to the country, you find a scholarship, you really need to find your way so that you can really develop yourself personally and also financially. So Dr. Umar Mohammed, I'm sure also you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Buhari. I think my case is quite similar to Chutiemi. We had lots of things in common as well. So when I came in for my MSc in England, I also wanted to stay, had the chat with my parents and decided that really I'll be staying back. But similar to Chutiemi, I haven't done much. I was very busy. I told you, really studious every time in the library, busy with the MSc, haven't even had chance to do much side job. And it was until towards the end when I actually started to think about staying back, but then it was a little bit late. Although my situation is a little bit different. I lost my dad during my MSc, so I just felt I wasn't even interested in staying abroad. I had to go back and fix a lot of things at home because I had siblings and, we are kind of the big boys in the family. So I had to go back. So that is a little bit different. But to be honest, I haven't even done much in terms of prepping to get my HCPC license to practice as a physiotherapist. So I decided to go back after my MSc. So, but I learned something just similar to what Chutiami mentioned, that preparation is very important. And let me take us a little bit backward. Even before you leave Nigeria, Dr. Boy, one thing I usually advise people, I get lots of calls from people, I'm planning to come out, I'm coming for a job. Let me even expand the topic a little bit. Even job, not just schooling. If you're living in Nigeria to come in, you have gotten a job as a clinician, you're coming as a lecturer, you're coming as anything, you're coming to study PhD, MSc. I think something that we tend to miss is when you gather all the information that we are talking about, talk to people, make calls, check internet, know where you're going to, know your finances. I think something that is key is to sit down and set your goals. And as a clinical goal, we have an acronym which is called the SMART. Your goal always needs to be SMART. So it needs to be really specific. It needs to be measurable, achievable, realistic, and it has to be time bound. So one of the issue we tend to have, like just rightly that you mentioned, is the issue with time. So he was in England, but haven't considered the time that he has to achieve that English and get the license. And it was towards the end that it was late. And then you realize you couldn't do anything. You had to go back. So the first thing is when you get all the information, pull the data together, sit down in Nigeria before even leaving. Close yourself in a room for maybe multiple days and think about what do you want to achieve in England. Let's say I'm coming to England for MSc. What is your plan? Worry, to surprise you, I speak to some people and they told me honestly, they got a job in England. They are coming in as clinicians, but they are not coming in to stay. They are just coming in to get capital. So they know a business venture in Kano, for instance, that is really good. Some of them are selling drugs, as maybe helping in shops, and they luckily get chance to come here and work. Their plan is not to come over and run away from Nigeria that people think. I like that you've mentioned that before we started this part of the discussion. It's not like everybody is leaving the country. Some people are leaving because they have a good idea. They don't have the money. They don't have anybody to support them. They don't have capital to tap from. The government is not really helping in terms of giving low credit loans, and they want to look for option. We are humans. You can't tie people and say that they can't use their brain. We are talking, Dr. Mahmoud talked about, changing the way you think, moving from theory to practical and things like that. So we have to learn how to think. if people see options, they move. That's just the natural phenomena. But people should have goals. Why are you going out? Some people will be, I'm coming to UK, I will spend 5 years, I will get capital, 50 million, 60 million, and then I'm going back to establish my pharmaceutical business. That is something that is valid to do. So the reason why I'm talking about this is the first thing is set your goals. If you're moving from Nigeria to abroad, for instance, know what you are going to do. Are you going out to get capital? Are you going fully to relocate there and stay? Are you going there to just get passport, for instance, and move? Are you just going there to as a transition? Because people come to UK to move to the Arab countries. That's the common trend that we see. People come to UK, build their CV, take their family and move to Saudi Arabia, move to Dubai, move to Qatar to settle there fully. Some people come in, do their thing, and then move back to Nigeria to settle, for instance. So there are lots of options, but I think the most important thing is get the data, sit down, analyze the data, think about yourself, your family, and then decide on what to do. And then set the goal. Goals change, but it needs to be really specific. What do you want to achieve? And it should be something that you can measure. So when you come in, you have lots of goals, but be able to set markers that will tell you that I'm really achieving the goal or not. That is quite important, and attach time to it. If you don't attach time, you will end up wasting your time and your visa will be ending in a few months and you haven't really achieved the goal. So make sure your goals are really smart. Specific, measurable, realistic, and then they need to be achievable. Don't set goals that are not pragmatic, and then it should be time bound. That is quite important. And Bori, I'm just going to say something a little bit because I'm here with my family and I know most of us have our families. If you're living in places like US and the UK, some people make a very huge mistake that they don't include their wives in their own discussions. And I think we need to really think about this, especially if you are living in the West, US, UK, for instance. Whenever you are making a decision to move out, you also need to sit as a family to discuss in terms of what you really want to achieve. The reason why I'm saying this is because the data is showing that lots of people find a lot of problem when they actually come in to the West, especially these countries, because we have equal right here with your wives, and it's not the normal Nigerian thing where you say we have to do this and it's done. There are changes that happens here. So what I advocate people is to have that honest conversation, set the goals together. This is what we want to achieve. If we go out, we are living in 7 years once we get our passport, and then also talk to your wife if she's a professional, if she's somebody that has ambition as well, if you want to do something, sit down and plan things so that you don't just come in and I'm done with my things and then she's exposed, she knows things and then she's not ready to go at that time. It creates a lot of problems, Dr. Bora, and I think that is something that is quite important to touch on. Discuss with your wives, what do you want to achieve when we go out? Because there is no that power that you think you have in Nigeria when you come here, or to be honest, especially in the UK and US. And I've seen lots of things about this already. So sit down and talk. What do we want to achieve before we go? Set the target, set the time bounds, and then talk about what she also wants to achieve when you come here. And when you come, hit the ground running once you come in and make sure you all achieve your own milestones. And then easily you can do all things and move out when you are done because you are working together. It's not one-man show usually when you come here, because one-man show happens when you have all the power to do all this. The system here doesn't allow that. So I think it's quite important that people actually understand all these things. To be honest with you, what I tell my friends and anybody that is seeking for advice is sit down and talk. Understand where you are going to, do your research, set your goals, set your targets, and then once you come in, try to ensure that you achieve all these things, because sometimes it can go in the wrong way usually. For me, when I was living Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong, and then towards the end of my PhD, I started to think about, although even before coming, I knew that my plan is not to go back. So I had that clear plan. And when I started my PhD, one thing that helped me a lot is because I already had the mindset of not going back, I tried to build my CV as I go through. So I didn't just wait until the end before I started to look at how to build my CV and things like that. I was lucky. My supervisor was an Indian. I mean, he was really good. So one thing he always tells me is keep your CV on your desktop. Don't hide it somewhere. Have a soft copy somewhere on your desktop. Once you attend a conference, once you do that, add it in. Once you do a certification, make sure you add it in. Once you publish a paper, make sure it's in. If you submitted paper to Prospero for review, plug it in. And that helped me a lot. So it became a discipline in me that whatever I do that is supposed to be in my CV, I just plug it in. And because I already have the idea that I really want to go into teaching, it doesn't have to be in Hong Kong, it could be anywhere, but I'm not planning to go back to Nigeria because I really want to build my CV, build my profile. So what I did was I tried to work a lot on research. And I was lucky I got so many papers published during my PhD, alhamdulillah, more than 10 and things like that before I finish. And although Saliu is my granddad when I'm talking about publication, Saliu published over 30 papers during his PhD. So, but to say, I mean, the reason why I'm saying this is you need to think about where you're going to. If you want to go into academics, into research, sit down and think about what will help you to get there, not until the end. And I was lucky after I finished, I immediately got a postdoctoral fellowship immediately with a different center. And I also want to talk something about this. I am a physiotherapist and I actually deal with the brain and spinal cord, the neuro. This is what I do. But for my postdoc, I got into vision. I mean, you've mentioned the Buhari when you started. So I went into people that look at the eye. And the reason for that is because they were looking for somebody who has background in physical activity to help them with their own project. So they were looking at the effect of physical activity on glaucoma and retinitis pigmentosa. And they're looking for somebody that has an expertise in physical activity. So sometimes it doesn't have to be that you have to go with your field. I actually navigated a little bit, do my postdoctoral fellowship there, which was a very good center, well-paid job. And then after that, I started applying for job once I get my PhD certificate. I was thinking of the Arabian countries. So I've never applied to the West, Buhari, even once. I always applied to Qatar, Dubai, Saudi. I don't even know the number of applications I did. I got interviews, some, and then it didn't work out. And I was just sitting one day, I was like, this is my goal of moving from Hong Kong to Middle East to the Arab countries. Is it the only option? Like, can't I try something? And believe me, the first application I did to the West was the university that I'm working in now. I just applied once and I got the job.
Wow.
So this is to tell you how decisions can sometimes tie you down. Because my mindset was, I have to go back to the Middle East. This is where I want to go from Hong Kong. This is my destination. I want to settle there. But that is not what God has planned for me. I did the postdoc, first application, GC, I got the job. And I just moved. And before moving, I had to do my homework, search everything and settle that, okay, this is something that I want to do before I then did the application. And then my wife is a medical doctor. We are here, you know, you need to sit down and think about. The reason why I'm talking about this is you might end up having a wife that is a professional. She also wants to build her career. So you don't just make the decision alone. Sit down. What do you want to do with your own career when we move out? Okay, I want to achieve A, B, C, D, E. So how do we then put these goals together and be able to achieve them simultaneously? Alhamdulillah, my wife is about to get her GMC registration, meaning she can practice as a doctor now in the UK. It took a long time to get to this. It takes like, it can take 3 years, 4 years to get. I know doctors that move from Nigeria, settle in the UK, and then take 3 years to get their own license to just practice. So these things are quite financially draining and they take time. They need a lot of support. So you need to sit down and set these pragmatic goals and be able to achieve them as you go through. And this will help you to, at the end of the day, feel everybody is happy. We've achieved what we want to achieve. Let's move out. And then when the time reaches, you take your bags and move to wherever you want to go. So this is quite important, I think, to always work as a family, as a unit when you're doing things. And that will help minimize and manage lots of these issues that we see a lot in different families here, which is really unfortunate, actually. But back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar Muhammad. That was a very important topics and highlight that you really made. It's really important that you really sit down and plan. And mostly this kind of things we used to have problem, especially in the northern Nigeria. Actually, I'm sorry to say, sometimes we are very lazy and we are very reluctant to some certain things. If not like now that people have, due to the economic hardship, have started to winding up the eyes of some people. But actually, we really need to take this kind of opportunities. We have seen like how these amazing scholars have break barriers and go out. Since when we don't even like think of, it's not even very common people to to go out. So I think the participants who are amongst you who are already currently students studying in whether in Nigeria or in diaspora, I think this advices that we are getting from this our scholars is very important that we really jot it down, especially for those that are currently undergoing their studies. You really need to plan your transition way before you graduate if you have a plan to stay in the to stay or to move to another country. Thank you very much, Dr. Umar Muhammad. Then I will move to Dr. Umar Salu. Also, maybe you highlight how easy, for example, you did your PhD in Hong Kong, and then now you are working in United States. So this kind of a transition, maybe you would like to hear what are the how did you plan this? Or uh, yeah.
Um, well, that is really huge. Sometimes it's not easy. When you are in a place, you settle down and just suddenly you want to move. Like Umar mentioned also, same thing with me actually. USA was never was never in my list, and I don't even have interest like in applying to find an opportunity in the US. I don't want to that as a beginning. Usually, like our mindset always look for opportunity in the Middle East, somewhere around Saudi, Qatar. So, but then I sent a lot of applications also. So, but then I just saw one opportunity, and I think if I could recall, through LinkedIn or Twitter. So I just contacted the person directly, and when I then he asked me to send my CV. So when I sent him the CV, then immediately he said, "Oh, this is impressive. So let's organize a meeting." So we met, and he called me for like a seminar to give a seminar in their department. So which I did, and immediately he gave me the job.
Mm.
So when he gave me the job, I said, I was like, kind of, should I take it or I should stay in Hong Kong, like doing continue my fellowship there in Hong Kong. So I feel like no, it's better to explore. So because I didn't want to move in at the beginning actually. My supervisor, my PhD supervisor has to push me like, no, you have to go, you have to explore. So I just moved. So when I move, I feel like, oh, this is really a great country. It's a country of opportunity, like they say. Like if you are looking for opportunity, really, when you come to US, you see a lot of them. So whether you want to continue in academia or you want to do business or a lot of things. So planning to move from Hong Kong, it was like some kind of sudden. So, but I have to do that. But first of all, like if you are moving with a family, like I mentioned in the beginning, try to look for an environment where there is at least people around who can guide you. Maybe if you are a Muslim, look for Muslim community. You know, yeah. One thing I noticed actually about we Africans or Nigerians specifically, um, anywhere you find a Muslim or Christians in abroad, usually they are really very good people. If they are really good Christians or good Muslims back in Nigeria, back in Africa, so when they come abroad, they really try to be representing the representative of the country or where they come from. People from Nigeria, from Ghana, they are all doing good actually. Unless maybe if you find someone who is like, his mind is completely different. But most of us actually are really trying. So that is what somebody told me like few weeks ago when I met him at the masjid. He said he's impressed with with the kind of how people like even with the weather like you come out to pray Fajr, you come out from home to go to masjid pray Fajr at the temperature like -20, -10 degree. So it's not easy. So he was telling me like if you see anybody in the masjid here, that means back in Nigeria he's a sheikh. you know, because here is a place whereby nobody cares. Whether you go to pray, whether you don't go to pray, nobody cares. Nobody cares. So it is just between you and your God. So if you used to see anybody in the masjid, that means that person is really nice one, and is very, very close to God and trying his religion well. So finding the right community is really the key. And then the accommodation sometime, because sometimes you have to weigh the financial and some other stuff. So you may find maybe a place whereby it's not affordable close to the masjid or somewhere around. You have to stay far away, so you have to balance. So, but at least try to stay, because, for example, like here, because of the diversity, there are places, even if somebody get an opportunity, I will strongly recommend him not to go. Is sometime I will say no, no, stay where you are, look for other opportunities, because that there are a lot of terrible places, but many places you find, like a very comfort environment whereby you stay more comfortably, just like as if you are in Nigeria. You don't have to worry about anything. It's different from how people think sometimes, like, US, anytime people hear about US, they will feel like, oh, people have gone and, maybe short. So that is not the case. If you really know how to navigate and try to find the right place to accommodate your family and to stay. That is really the key. So you can live comfortably and you might not have any challenge. So one of the challenge actually you may encounter here is uh that is why even at this level, like I always ask. There is my friend, like he's a assistant professor in Tulsa University. So sometimes he used to tell me like, oh, I always, why do I always ask? I say, yeah, because I don't, even if I know something, I still ask the people who has the experience, like, so because here the system work differently. So there are things that are some kind of hidden. You may never know them. So you have to really get close to people who have the first-hand experience. So they will guide you appropriately and so that you can be successful.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Salu. That's a really important point you put out there. So I think the time is not in our side, so I will move to the last uh, topic of discussion. Then I will start with Dr. Muhammad Ali, so that maybe if you have something to say by the last one, then you join them together and do it briefly, so that we can have some time to answer some question. And the last one is, for example, since we are from you guys are from different countries or different continents even, so maybe there are some opportunities and maybe either scholarship and career opportunities that are available in the country. So maybe what are the easiest way people can come to the country, and what are the easiest way that they can, what kind of opportunities are at their disposal. For example, there are some countries that they have, for example, after scholarship, maybe after you study 2 years or 3 years, after that they can give you a permanent residency, or you can get a passport or something like that. So I'm sure all these kind of countries, they have this kind of system. So maybe like we would like to highlight to our brothers and sisters to see this kind of opportunity in this country, so that when they are looking also, they can tap into these opportunities. So I'll start with Dr. Muhammad Ali.
Oh, thank you. I think I will add a little bit on the previous question,
Mm.
the one we were discussing. So I think it is important to stay locked in within uh, a system of like-minded people. So if you plan to move abroad, if you want to become a researcher, whatever you want to do, try to stay locked in with the like-minded people. So that will ultimately, of course, help you in achieving your dreams. This is what I will add. So then with regards to the opportunities, for example, let's say South Korea here, of course, there are a lot of opportunities, be it like the business or the research or whatever. So I could remember while doing my PhD, I was doing some part-time job. I try to do
Of
some,
course.
yeah, I do some other jobs, try to augment my income. So in as much as you like open your mind, look for opportunities. Actually, opportunities are everywhere. So, for example, in South Korea, you talk about the permanent residency, they have the system in place here. You can even get passport. I know you know about it. Most of us already got the permanent residency. Okay, so you have that, but it depends on what you want. Initially, we talk about this, like, what do I want to do with my life? What is my ultimate goal? It's not everyone that want to stay abroad, like Dr. Umar mentioned. So some people just want to move abroad to get some capital so that they move back and start something, some business entrepreneurship and other things. And some people just want to stay outside and live their life, build their family there. So depending on what you want to do, catch your goals, opportunities actually are everywhere. But particularly in South Korea, of course, there are a lot of opportunities. When you think about the technological advancements here we have, when you think about the business here, they are doing good. And when you think about the, let's say, the research where what we do normally, the university system, you can still join here. They are accommodating. So I don't think if someone wants to live here, he will not have difficulty actually. The only thing is regarding the family. So I envied Dr. Uwer. He mentioned how his family is doing really good.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm sorry, but I had to take my son back to Nigeria. My son is now back in Nigeria because the system here, I don't trust it. Like, I want him to go back, do some get some Islamic knowledge there. So then maybe later on, even if I move to another country, I can take him back. So if you are in a country where the system is like good for raising families, then it's fine for you. But I think that one is important. If it is not favorable, then you think about doing something like taking your family back home or maybe changing the environment entirely. So there are opportunities here. If someone is willing to come to South Korea, of course, there are a lot of opportunities, be it in business, be it in academia, be it in like the industries also, they are doing really good. So a lot of opportunities. Important thing is open your mind, stay locked in with the like-minded people, do a lot of research, then definitely opportunities are there. Yes.
thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ali. So I will quickly move to Dr. Muhammad Chutami, because I know in Australia there are some, especially for people who are in medical health. I think there are a lot of opportunities for them in Australia, and also maybe they have some kind of track where you can get a permanent residency even without being in the country or something like that. So maybe you can highlight some of these things in brief, Dr. Chutami.
Okay, thank you, Buhari. Yeah, because we don't have much time. So definitely, I just saw a comment that I know there are some people who are still undergraduate right now. Please follow the pathway to scholarship. You will get there eventually. But coming back to the topic, unlike South Korea, as Dr. Mahatma has said, Australia is not a technological country like Korea, I will say. It's completely different. Australia is a country that is very big, like 4 times Nigeria, if not more. And yet the population is only 25 million, just like Kano and Kaduna, possibly. So what happened in Australia is that there is a lot of resources. And what they are doing right now is they are populating the country slowly and exploring the resources gradually. Till now, like all the things that are happening in Australia is like within the 10 to 20% of the land. 80% of the land is not touched yet. So you can see there is a lot of potential. And just like Buhari has mentioned, they have a pathway for people to come here and settle and work. That is why in Australia, probably unlike South Korea, it's very important if you want to stay there to think about getting a permanent residency, which is a visa that will be given to you forever. You don't need to look for another visa. So luckily, Alhamdulillah, I got that and I even got a citizenship, which of course is a process, but it's not something that is not feasible. And this is something that whether you are already in Australia like myself or you are even in Nigeria, this pathway is there. The only challenge is obviously it costs money. And not everyone has that ability to, pay those money to get into Australia. For example, there are a couple of people that I meet here from Adamawa, from Kano, Jigawa, that came without studying in Australia, just apply for the permanent residency. And this is very easy. If you want to look into that, just go to your browser and put Australian skill occupation list, and the process will take you from there. Obviously, this is a topic of discussion another time. So there is a pathway. You just have to do your homework. Try to start processing as early as possible is very important. Even if you are processing for job, try to see that you are processing for the permanent residency at the same time. And just like one of the speakers said, don't say you have to do the job that is in your field. Here you can make money even if you are sweeping the road or you are, for example, my car mechanic is driving a Range Rover. So I will take my Toyota Corolla, but he's in his Range Rover and he will fix my car. So any job can get you money. Open your mind. Don't think you have to do something big. Something small can still earn you a reasonable money for you to live a normal life and help people back home. So that is as short as I can put it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed Chitami. And I will go to Dr. Salu also. And you highlight some of I think you have already started mentioning them before. The opportunities are there. And I think in the US, there are a lot of opportunities. But I think maybe now, I don't know, maybe because of the immigration policy, is there some hindrance to that, some opportunities?
That is even making them a lot of more often, the only problem is like if you are in the US illegally, that is when you face a lot of challenges, and you may be deported. So especially now with the strict policies and a lot of things from Trump. So but if you are here legally, so because people who are doing most of the other jobs, like most of people that are here illegally, like they are hiding, and some of them like they are like self-deporting themselves. So that's often additional doors for more opportunities. So like Chute means say like sometimes you don't have to stick to one area. Just look for any opportunity and try to. What I always recommend is like know where you are going to stay. That is a key, because sometimes for example here, to say New York, for example, specifically, um, is 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 one of the most advanced cities, most opportunities, a lot of things, but at the same time there is a lot of challenges living in New York. A lot of crises. So it's one of the cities that I don't think I can live there. So because of the security threat, a lot of things. But in terms of opportunity, I can say is as far as I know, like it's the best in the world. But almost everywhere, you find opportunities that you can use. Don't say maybe as the beginning you have to look for something big. No, you can start with something small, and then So, for example, like to say, if you are a student here, I think the challenges is, I think the students sometimes they face some challenges. They have some certain hours that they have to work. So, but at the beginning, always focus on your study. When you graduate, you have high chances, you have high opportunity, because the US always give priority to people who graduate from here. So or work from here, then bring in somebody outside. So there are a lot of opportunities. So one thing to add, like I saw somebody is asking, like he's a graduate of mathematics, and which area is he has to study or something like that. That is one thing I would like to add. Here in the US or so many other places, so many advanced countries, mathematicians and likewise so many other fields, there are a lot of things, but with the current development of the AIs, if you are a mathematician, stand a high chance like to get a lot of area of research, a lot of good job opportunities. You can do machine learning, you can do data science, a lot of related areas that will provide you job opportunities after graduation. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saluhu. And now we quickly move to Dr. Umar Muhammad Bello. Also, what are the opportunities are there in the UK for our Nigerian brothers and sisters?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Buhari. I think there are a lot of similarities in terms of what my other friends have actually mentioned. So one of the key, I think, opportunity that people tend to look at here, I think, from my own conversation with different people, is about the passport. So you can be able to get citizenship in the UK as it stands now. If you're here for as a skilled worker, you need to stay here for 6 years for you to be able to get a passport. And if you're here for 5 years, you will get something called ILR, which is indefinite leave to remain. And it's just similar to the passport, but it's just that you're not a citizen. You can come into UK anytime and leave. You can access every free services that they have and things like that. Healthcare in UK is free for the citizens. So, or for people that have ILR, you can go to hospital and get any service, even most of the drugs you don't pay for them. There are a few ones that you pay, but virtually most of the things you get from the hospital is free. But before you get to that, like my status, if you are working in the university, a lecturer, or in a company, or construction, for instance, you need to be able to pay something called health insurance. And you pay that every year for 5 years for you and your family, which is a bit expensive, honestly. I'm paying more than £1,000 for myself. The same thing for your wife, and for your kids, around £700. So it's a lot of money if you have a big family. But most people, the opportunity they're looking at is to get to that 5 years and then be able to get the ILR. And this is where you stop paying health insurance, and everything in terms of health is free. And some people, why I am talking about this is I talked about why people should come in. What is your target? Some people, their target is to come in, get the passport, and then get some capital and move out. And even if you get the passport and move, you can always come back to the UK within your lifespan, and you can come back and access healthcare because you're already a citizen. And that is going to be virtually free for you when you leave the country. So some people tap into this to get the passport, move out, and then they can always come back to get all these sophisticated surgeries done and so many important things. But as I said earlier, it's quite expensive. But the good news is, if you are into the health sector, if you're working as a doctor, a physiotherapist, a nurse, or even if you're working as a care assistant, for instance, you don't need to pay the health insurance. So it's waived for you. So you just come in, you stay for 5 years, and even your visa is discounted. So you pay less amount for your visa. So if I decided to switch to a physiotherapist now and work in a hospital, I wouldn't be paying anything. But because I'm teaching as a lecturer, I have to pay. So some people come in, work as a doctors, nurses, health workers, and they don't pay any health insurance. It's free, and they get their ILR. Fine. After that 1 year, you get your passport, and then they decide to leave or they move out. So that opportunity is there. If you are here as a skilled worker, you just need to stay around 6 years to get your passport. There are lots of push to change this in the parliament recently, but it has not been approved. But as it stands now, it's actually 6 years. For students, you need to stay for 10 years if you're on the student visa route to be able to get your own ILR. So it's a little bit longer. So in terms of opportunity for MSc students, Dr. Bori, there is something called post-study visa. So if you come here for your MSc, in UK, usually the MSc is 1 year. So if you finish your MSc 1 year, you can apply for post-study visa, which they will give you 2 extra years. And you can be able to stay in the UK. During that period, what I advise my students and some friends is actually to, depending on your goal, if you want to go into PhD, if that's what your target is in the UK, work very hard within those 2 years to be able to save money, because you can work as long as you want over that period. Save money, get the connections, write the proposals, contact the right people, contact the universities, and try to secure PhD opportunities. There are lots of them that are university-based. We have Commonwealth and so many options. Some people go right back to Nigeria and try to secure, what is it called? Is it DPR or something like that? I can't remember the oil scholarship that they tend to get. Sister to the TED fund. what is it called? Other oil
The
kind of PhD scholar.
PTD.
PTDF, thank you. PTDF, yeah. So some people will secure that and then push and do their own PhD. Some will work very hard, save money, at least be able to pay for their first, second year PhD. And then while they are doing their PhD, continue to work to save for their third year. I know a lot of people that go through that route. So it's a good opportunity. If you can come in for your master's, the only issue that we have now is you can't come with your family if you are coming for MSc. So they ban dependents. So you can't come with a dependent if you are coming for MSc. But when you come for PhD, you can bring your family. So some people will leave their family back in Nigeria, stay alone for 1 year during their MSc, save some money, and then get their post-study visa, then work very hard over that period, either getting PhD scholarship, or getting some amount to be able to save for their own early part of the PhD. The other thing you could do is to look for a job. I met somebody who is an elder brother to a friend of mine, and I went to visit him. He's living very well. He's comfortable here in Glasgow, and I was having a chat with him. He told me he came like 20 years ago, and what he did was he just came in, did his master's, and got a job in a bank. And he settled. He got his passport. I mean, all his kids were born here. His wife is a nurse. They are living comfortably, and it's because he just did the masters and then got the job in a bank, and he's doing well, and he's now a citizen, having his passport. All his kids are citizens and things like that. So you can be able to do that. So when you come and do the masters, if you are lucky, you can get a job that will give you sponsorship and then be able to settle here. So there are a lot of pathways, Dr. Buhari. And as I said, you need to actually do the search, know the information, digest the information, and then think about what you want to do. So if I'm planning to settle in the UK, I wouldn't start thinking about settling when I am about to finish my MSc. It would be something to be done even right away from Nigeria before you leave the country. You need to think about all these things and start working towards them. I want to do a PhD, then save money for PhD. Do post-study. If you're young, you don't have a family, it's even easy for you. Settle down, save some money, and then you can finance your PhD at the first year. And then while you're doing the PhD, you still get the chance to work and save some money for the remaining years and things like that. So there are lots of options. Scholarship, you have the chance to get the passport. You can come back anytime, but we are painting this picture as making it really lucrative, but it's quite difficult. But you need to spend a lot of money in some of these things. You have to pay health insurance, you have to pay lots of things, lots of sacrifices to be done, but it's something that is doable. And I encourage people to do the appropriate search, sit down, digest the information, and then apply the knowledge, set a smart goal, and then hit the ground running when you come in. And hopefully you will actually get there subsequently. So there are a lot of things. In terms of job, you can come in as a health worker. You don't need to be a health practitioner. You can work in several care homes. It's really a low level job. Some people who don't want to do it, but you can get sponsorship from Nigeria to come in and work in a care home. I know so many Africans that work there. And while you work there full time, you save money and then plan for even your MSc, even for your PhD. People do that, especially people from Zambia, Zimbabwe, and things like that, Kenya. You have a lot of them coming in as support workers. So fresh, full sponsorship. And they work there for 2-3 years. They get their money, sponsor their MSc, and then continue. Some of them just stay there, get capital, and go back. Some of them are just there for the passport. They just get the passport, become citizen, and settle their life here. So many options. So know the information and then decide what you want to do. Pray very hard, set the goals, and then come in. And then look for the opportunities as you go through the journey.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Yeah, love you, bud.
Dr. Umar. That's a very important information, actually, because this kind of information, that's mostly what we lacked in northern Nigeria, because some other part of the country, they have already known about this for a very long time. That it's just now that we have realizing this now, and thanks to forum like this, that we can be able to uh, give a platform like this to shed more awareness. And it's also our responsibility for, especially for the participant, also to share the information to others, so that wider people can benefit. And also this is very important because it may determine since while you are looking for a scholarship, it may determine where you want to go. For example, like Dr. Umar made mention that in the UK they have a visa which after you study your study or masters, they will give you 2 years to stay. So we have that also similar in South Korea. After you finish your study, they will give you 2 years visa. They call it job looking visa. So during those 2 years, you will be looking for a job. When you find a job, then you transition to another visa. So I think that's a really, really very important visa as a student. And for what we have mentioned earlier, that is very difficult. The transition is very difficult to transition from one study or from one study to a job. But that visa can give you a time so that you can adjust and have a time to look for a job. So for those who are looking for scholarship, you will be it's better to be looking at this kind of small opportunities or small window, which country have this kind of extra opportunities, so that will be really good for you. So I think this is where we come to the end of the
Sorry, Barry. Can I chip in a little bit? I forgot about something that
yes,
is
yes,
quite
go ahead,
important,
doctor,
I
go
think.
ahead. Mm,
I think there is another visa called Global Talent that
mm,
people are not mostly aware of, and they're looking for people in academia, research, art and culture, digital technology. So if you feel you have these skills and you can be able to demonstrate these skills, you can be able to get visa and just come in.
mm,
So I will advise people to actually go in. I will drop the link in the chat, and
mm,
people can explore that option. It's really good, and you can be able to use that. And it's a very free visa, not free in terms of money, but you are not restricted to your employer or sponsor. You can do a lot of things if you get the visa. And I know so many people that had chance to get the global talent visa, and they are doing really well. So I put
The
the
same, the same
link.
situation in Canada right now, especially
Okay.
with current situation of the US immigration issue. So if you are planning to come to the US, going through Canada will be really easier
Yeah.
because they have this kind of global talent. As they can some
Mm,
at some point, depending on your skill, they can even give you PR directly.
yeah.
So it's really and with the fact that they are now it's like a huge opening because they are feeling like they have not done enough to fill the diversity and inclusion criteria gap. So now they are
Mm,
opening a lot, especially for Africans and Indians and Chinese as well. So it's a huge opportunity for you can look for Edu Canada. So that's where to.
mm.
mm,
So thank you very much, our wonderful presenters and scholars, for highlighting this very important topic, and I'm sure it's really benefit us and all the participants. So we'll quickly go to the questions so that we can answer some few and then maybe go. There are some questions about undergraduate students. I think I will all that I will combine all the question from the undergraduate. So maybe at the end, one of our scholars will just give a general advice to undergraduate student. But for now, I will skip this question. I will go to other question. This one, Yunus Arabi is saying, how much is the average cost for a medical doctor to get a license in Australia? Okay, I think that will be to Dr. Mama Chutiani. Okay, I think doctor is not. It's not here, but maybe we'll come back to that later when data is available. Then this one say I just remember the issue of drug versus medication just now. I was told the UK is hostile, definitely in some places, I presume. I don't really understand this question, but maybe Dr. Umar Muhammad, maybe you understand. I just there are some drugs or medication issue in the UK.
Okay, so what drug exactly is
I
it talking
does
about?
I really don't
Oh,
understand.
she
I don't really understand the
is it
question.
is it about prescription, or is it about I don't know, drug,
Yeah, it's not
you
because
know,
it's not clear.
junkies and stuffs like that? And the question is not really clear.
Yeah.
But in terms of safety, when it comes to maybe place to live, I don't know if that's where he's or she coming from. I don't think there is much in terms of crimes, if that's the question. I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing to the question, but I think generally the safety level is quite good. I don't think there is much. You can find few places that are kind of dominated by junkies, as every country. You
Mm,
have pockets of people that do drugs and things like that. But that is why it's quite important to do that search, know where you want to live. There are places that I wouldn't advise somebody to go and live, even in Glasgow, as cosmopolitan as Glasgow is. So, but the point is, these social vices are everywhere. I mean, Sally will talk about that in US. It's really rampant, So, but the main thing is that's why you need to do your own homework and know where you need to take your family to, or you need to go if you want to stay alone, and things like that. So it's quite important. But in terms of drug, I think it's not a big issue because you can do your homework and know where to live. And if it's talking about drug in terms of NHS, I don't know if that's the question, but there are drugs that are not covered by NHS, so you need to buy them. But so many of the drugs that you get from the pharmacy, you just need to tell them your name and maybe your date of birth, they will search and then administer the drug to you, especially for kids. Mostly you don't buy because you already paid the health insurance. If you're a health worker, you don't even need to pay. It's just free for you. If you're a citizen, once you get ILR, you don't even pay all these things. You just go and get your prescription from the GP. Every house will be linked to a GP. So you have a mini clinic that you all go when you have a problem. You just call, book appointment, take your kids, yourself, and they write the drugs to you. And then you go to the pharmacy to pick it up. If it is really big, they send you to the hospital and then they pick it up from there and do whatever you need, CT, MRI, whatever is free. You don't pay anything if you go to the hospital. So if it's coming from that angle, yes, there are drugs that you need to buy, but majority of them, you get them free from the counter. If you're a citizen, it's free. For me, I have to pay health insurance every year for my family. So, but we get the drugs throughout there and every other services that you need in the hospital. So I don't know whether I've answered the question, but just to touch on drug from two sides, yeah.
Please,
Okay, thank you.
Chuti, I'm in his bag. You can unmute him.
Oh, okay, he went out before. Okay, I see. Dr. Chutari. It's Dr. Chut. Okay. Yes. So there is another one in the question in the chat. He said there is an exception. Oh, I think this is regard with the UK dependent. He said MSc student, those on government sponsored scholarship like PTDF and Commonwealth can still bring their dependent. Okay, I think this is regards to what Dr. Umar said, because MSc student cannot bring, but someone is saying maybe, okay, if you are on PTDF or Commonwealth, you can bring your defendant. Okay, good to know.
Okay, I'm not too sure about that, Dr. Buhari. I thought it's a generic kind of a policy, but I don't know about it. I know that if you're MSc, you can't come with any dependent. Yeah, but if they have exceptions for the type of scholarship, I'm not sure about that. We need to maybe check that up. Yeah.
I see. Okay, this one said, Doctor, does the post-study visa in Korea allows dependent? The D2, I'm not sure actually if D2, D10 person with D10 can bring his family in South Korea. I don't think so actually. I have to inquire, but Dr. Muhammad Ali, do you have any idea about D10 visa? Can they bring their family? Earlier, I saw
I think you
Ibrahim.
know better than me.
I don't think D10 can bring, but I saw Ibrahim
Yeah,
Ali. I
I'm not
think
sure, but
by now we can.
D4 possible, the language.
Yeah, the D4, yeah, for the language visa, yeah, I think you can bring, but for D10, I don't think you can bring a family because they just give you for 6 months and you need to revise it every 6 months. So I don't think you can bring a family with that. So
sorry, Dr. Buhari. I think I talked about prescription here. I think Abdullah is someone staying in England, and he corrected me that for prescription in England, you have to pay £10, but in Scotland, it's totally free. So we have the same country, but the NHS policy can be funny. It's different in different places. So in England, you pay £10 for a prescription, but in Scotland, we don't pay anything.
I see.
Yeah.
That this one, Techno. Okay, maybe Techno, you can unmute and ask your question. You can unmute and ask your question. I see you already asking the chat, but you can go ahead now and ask. Or if you are in a position that you cannot. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on your location.
Yeah, thank you very
This is
much.
Show Abba Adamu. Sorry if I'm in a kind of location which is somehow noisy.
Yeah, it's okay. We can hear
So
you. Just go ahead.
okay. My question goes most likely directly to Dr. Salu regarding the language barrier. I don't know whether can somebody cope with the different languages. Maybe you've gone through your MSc using a different medium than when it comes to your research area. What I mean by this is maybe during your MSc, you must have learned a language like Dr. Salu that have gone to
Hong
Ukraine.
Kong. Hong
I
Kong.
believe he learned about Russian language and later to Hong Kong. Maybe he had to learn another language as a medium of communication. So how is that possible for someone to cope with this kind of situation? Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
so
Dr.
yeah,
Maybe
Shiwaba is my very good friend, you know, is in fact my brother. So to respond quickly, actually it depends on the country. Like in most Russian countries that speak Russian, mostly they as a state learning the language first before you can study or study. But in most places, even in China, you know, like it's not necessary in most places. So in Hong Kong, it's completely English. Hong Kong is UK, the same with Nigeria. It's UK that colonized Hong Kong. So they speak English, even the kids at school, they speak English. So we have no problem with that. And if you are going to Western countries, that the same story. The only challenge, sometime in China, some places is a challenging, even though officially it's English, but I will strongly recommend if you are going to China, maybe for PhD, to give some time, you know, to learn the language a little bit. So it's just try to know how to communicate with the language. This is something like if I will have to go back, you know, I will really have to learn the language a lot, and it's really useful. So, but it's not necessary in most places.
okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Salu. I think now maybe we can just go to the last question, and which was towards Dr. Mohammed Chuti. I mean, someone was asking how much how much is it for a medical doctor to get a license in Australia?
Okay. Yeah, good question. So the problem with Australia is, okay, for all the medical professional, nursing, physiotherapy, medical doctor, is similar process. You do the English exam first, which is around 250,000, I think, IELTS now. And then after that, you have to do a written professional exam. So with respect to medical doctors, I'm not sure if they do the exam in Nigeria. What I know is that they do that in South Africa for all African countries. And then for you to, after that one, if you pass, you have to do the final practical exam in Australia. And Australia being very far, even the cost of flight to come and go back is like 3 million naira. So if you put things together, assuming you pass the exam once for everything, you're expected to spend at minimum 10 million naira. And that excludes like the money for you to settle in hotel and do all of that. So the other thing that I will advise is if you have a master's in Nigeria or somewhere else and you think you want to come to Australia, why not go for the skill migration system and see if you fit in there? Because if you fit in there, you can apply for the skill migration system online without the need to come to Australia. And when you come to Australia, you can then process if you get it. Of course, I'm not saying it's everybody get it, but you don't pay the big money for the visa unless you are guaranteed you will get it. You are only required to pay like 1 million, and only if you are guaranteed, then you will be asked to pay, I think, around 5 million naira, and then you can get that permanent visa and come to Australia and process the other things. Other than this, the easy option is coming as a student, because obviously everything costs money, but if you are able to come as a student, you can easily do some mini jobs and then raise the money to do all of this registration process that costs a lot of money. So if you want to do it before coming, then definitely you need not less than 10 million naira to do it. Make this short.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad
I'm
Yuta.
sorry, I have just shared also another link similar to the global talent that we have in UK. There is new visa called Innovation Visa in Australia that take away the problem of English and everything. You don't need to, but you have to prove yourself in certain areas. So I just dropped the link, especially those of you that are into sciences like experimental things. Please have a look at the link. If you qualify, that is the easiest visa to get to Australia right now.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And I think this is where we come to the end of the today's webinar. But before we round off, maybe I would like to quickly go one round, maybe in just some few words. What are the advice you can give to the student, undergraduate and postgraduate student, those that are looking for scholarship opportunities or for job opportunities, and what are the things that they need to do in their current situation so that to get this kind of opportunity, and then also what kind of motivation you will give them to stop being reluctant or to stop being lazy and try to explore opportunities globally. Dr. Umar Mohammed.
Thank you so much, Buhari, for the opportunity to round up. I think for me, I would like to talk on this avoidance of being reluctant in terms of the way people do things. I think what I will advise the young folks coming up is to be proactive. You don't need to be reactive in things. You need to go out and search for these things. I can remember when I was applying for my MSc, it's not that I had the scholarship, it's not that I had the funding at hand. Then there was no internet on the mobile that you can just search in your room while lying down. We had to go to the cafe, you remember, we read the 1 hour paper that you log in on the computer, and when you go to cyber cafe. So that was how we kept doing it. You go to the cafe, you buy 1 hour, you log in, you apply to one university that you don't even know where it exists. I think I applied to more than 10 universities in the UK when I was coming for my MSc, and it was through that process. It's not like I had the scholarship or I have the money to come, but I was optimistic. I kept doing that, and I was lucky. I got the admission from 2 universities. I talk to people, ask questions. So I think that reluctancy should be taken out because things are much more easier, Buhari, now. You can use your mobile to do everything in your room with 200 naira data. So there's no any excuse to be lazy in terms of checking these things. These forums cannot give you all the information that you need, but it will give you a starter, and you can then go online. Virtually, most of the things you need are out there. I think the second thing is to get a good mentor. Dr. Buhari, we can always think about how mentorship help. I mean, this forum is there. Look for somebody that has gone through what you want to go into, and then a lot of guidance will be given to you to kind of navigate through mistakes that they made when they were going through the process, and give you simple tips that will take you through the journey easily. So I think getting a good mentor, avoiding that lazy and lackadaisical behavior that I just wait and then information will be given to me. This spoon feeding approach should be minimized. People should be active. If this is what you want, go for it. Do the search, do your homework, talk to people, get the information, and go out and keep praying. Praying is very important, and if luck happens, it can click. But we need to be really proactive, honestly, because we have things easy now. You have the internet, you have everything in your mobile phone. You can check all these things and keep attending this type of sessions. You'll have simple tips that can actually change your life. And I have to thank you so much, Buhari, for organizing all these things, because they go in a long way. Like, people can get lots of information that will be really difficult if you don't attend this type of sessions where people are pulled together to give some kind of tips in terms of how to do things. So I really want to appreciate you guys in Gamji for the things that you're doing. May God reward you abundantly, and for all the speakers and everything, in this type of forums are out there. Very important. I think it's quite important. So get a good mentor, do your homework and be proactive. I think these are my main kind of message for the young ones. Back to you, Bori.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Bello, and also thanks goes to you for always being available to share your experiences. Dr. Muhammad Aliyu, maybe your last words today.
I think what I would like to add is try not to personalize failures. So when you're doing something in life, be it looking for a scholarship or anything, do not personalize failures. If you fail, don't think that you are the failure. Like, don't give up along the way. So it mostly happens when you try to find a scholarship. Actually, you can get it first time, just like Dr. Umar did. Some people have to try like hundreds of times. I met Indians here. We were discussing about like scholarship opportunities. One guy showed me his email. He applied to over like 200. He had like more than 200 emails, which he tried to apply to different universities looking for scholarship. I was thinking about like my friends back home. Someone will just send like 5, 10 emails without a response. Then he became like a bit reluctant and somewhat discouraged. No, he thinks like he's the failure himself. So don't do that. Work hard. In as much as you work hard, actually, the I used to remember this saying that universe is given. Once you work hard, you will get it. Actually, that is how this world works. So if you work hard and you stay positive, always stay positive. So it doesn't mean you will get it first time. Keep trying, keep working hard, stay locked in within the system of like-minded individuals like this. Definitely you will get it, 100% assured.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Dr. Muhammad and Dr. Saluhu.
Yeah, so I will just say one or two things that I've already mentioned before. The first one is connection. That is really very important. Actually, try to have a good contact. Uh, Wherever you are going, try to find the right person. If you are going to study, then try to look for people in your area, check for the department, look for those who in your area, who your areas aligns with yours, then keep in contact with them. Even if they didn't give you any opportunity, try to maintain the relationship is very important. And secondly, uh, if your emphasis is for the US right now, yes, it's good, do it, but also at the same time emphasize on Canada. You they don't have the strictness in terms of the visa is really not much compared to US, especially with the current situation. As most places nowadays, most of the founders recently are forcing admissions to graduate programs which is basically affecting PhDs, masters, So this is really very important. So if you are giving 100% effort in applying for US universities, at least make it 50-50. Apply to US and then at the same time apply to Canada. So I believe through Canada you can easily come to US. So that is all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So, lastly, Dr. Chutiani.
Okay, thank you, Buhari. Obviously, all things have been said. Just to emphasize on one thing, please know that you are the one to get yourself a scholarship. All we are doing is to help. You can get a lot of guide, but please put the effort. Don't expect anybody to sit down and do something for you other than to guide you. And I know due to the economic situation, many of us, the best chance to get to abroad is through scholarship. And now the competition is really high, especially for those of you who want to apply for undergraduate. The chances are very, very minimal. If not places like Korea, you can barely see undergraduate opportunities. So my advice is work hard in your undergraduate degree in Nigeria, get the best result, and then try to enroll into your master's before you get somewhere. Because getting the scholarship for master's and PhD is a lot easier compared to undergraduate. And for you to be successful for the master's and PhD, you have to prove to them, for example, in Australia, that you are good at research. That is what separates you from others. So please try to engage, even if it's project from others, colleagues or whatever, get yourself into it and see that you have some research to stand the big competition to get the scholarship. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Dr. Chutiami, and thank you very much to our amazing scholars. I'm sure these golden advices and experiences that you shared, it will really go a long way, and it will really help the participant to navigate some of the challenges they are encountering or they may encounter along the way. I think this is a really great opportunity that they have, because during our time we don't have this kind of opportunity, and still we did it. We struggle and we do it, but so I think this is really opportunity to a shortcut to some of the participants so that they can easily navigate and see how they can avoid some of the challenges so that they can be successful. Thank you very much, our discussant, for always having the time to be with us and share your knowledge to our teaming youth, and also thanks to the participant for joining us today. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our some of our scholars and mentors. I see Dr. Dauda Saluhu join us, then Dr. Ibrahim Aliu, Dr. Jakada, Dr. Abubakar, and Dr. Sajo. Thank you also for being here with us.